From the commission, want to ask questions? Anyone else?
Yeah, so it sounds like the Norway maple is still alive. And so our regulation for our tree policy is that trees that are still alive need to be replaced uh, with a native tree in the kind of vicinity of where that tree is coming out of. But the dead tree can get removed without a replacement planting. Is that something that would be reasonable? And we have a list of native trees that you can pick from. Yeah.
Yes, we're willing to do that. Just a question of the commission, and you mentioned vicinity. Is there like a specific footage or anything we need to follow in that respect?
No, I mean somewhere within the resource area. We generally try to have people kind of planted as close as reasonable to the tree that's getting taken out, so that the canopy can recover in that area. But there's no sort of necessarily footage requirement. But it must be in the resource area at least.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jackie can help. You know, if you put a stake somewhere that you'd like to put it and send her a picture, she can let you know that that makes sense.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Anybody else? Anyone from the public? Okay, how about a motion?
I'll put forward a motion to issue a determination of negligible impact for RDNI 2026-05 at 32 Summer Street with the standard conditions, including the requirement for one native replacement tree to be planted within the jurisdictional area within 6 months.
Okay, and how do we vote?
Need to
Or
go
I
second.
guess I need a second first.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. How do we vote? Jen DiCarlo, aye.
Andrew Mulholland, aye.
Maureen Bresnian, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.
All right. Good luck with that tree removal. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
To us. Appreciate it. All right. Have a good night. All right. Next, we have a request for a certificate of compliance. That's OOC 3070410 for 35 Howell Map 33 Lot 25 McKinnon. Someone here on behalf of that request? I think you may be muted, Mr. McKinnon.
How's that?
Loud and clear.
Perfect.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay.
Okay, do you want to bring us up to speed, Mr. McKinnon? Let us know what's happened.
In this one, when we were buying the house, it turned out that the property failed the Title V inspection, so the seller set up an escrow at the closing. The septic system was replaced, and we had no involvement at all in that. It was just all set up and done, and evidently there wasn't some final paperwork or whatever, but what we do have is the as-built plan signed off on by the designer, John Moran, saying it was built in substantial compliance with the plan. And then I have the certificate of compliance signed off by your inspector, looks like Mr. Manning. And this, of course, is all 21 years ago, I think, more than that, 2002. So it's all signed off on, but we never got the whatever it is we need at this stage, I guess.
Yeah, so I'll fill in the commission on the recent site visit. I had visited on April 22nd, so almost a month ago now. I think that was the date. And I observed the septic system and the retaining wall associated with it. They do appear to be in the same place as on the plan. The wall extends slightly into the buffer zone. And then I had asked when I got back this week after some time off, I was reviewing again, and I had asked, or no, maybe it was before my time off, I had asked for the letter from the engineer because that was not part of the application. And then when I got back, I found out from Mr. McKinnon that because the plan had a statement from the engineer signed by the engineer on the plan, he was hoping to submit that instead of an actual letter. And when looking at those plans again today, I did notice that the conservation posts that were shown on the original plan didn't appear to be installed in the photos from the site visit. So I think that might be the only outstanding item here.
With somebody else.
But it was signed off by the Board of Health. And that the COC certificate of compliance you mentioned was the one from the Board of Health, so it's just missing the one from conservation.
Actually, I had installed those conservation posts prior to your visit. I don't know if we didn't get in the photos or not, but they are there.
Let me pull up the photos and see. I'll share my screen and we can go through them together. Maybe I did miss something. So it looked like from the plan that they were supposed to be somewhere out here.
I can actually see one of them. It's very faint, but it's there below that tree.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
Yeah, I
there's
do see
one.
it.
There's
Yep,
another
it's
one further on.
okay.
And then behind you, there's one near the other tree on the slope. And then there's one on the far side of the driveway over by the street.
Let's see. Is this
Yep, there you go.
okay? There is one there.
Someone out there?
Okay.
There's something out there?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're just blending in. So I'm sorry I missed that, but
That's okay.
let's see if I can see any in this photo. Oh, yeah, it's right here. Wow, it really does blend in the photos, but yeah. Right there.
Okay.
Okay, so this one seemed like the less complicated of the two. But since those conservation markers are there, I think I'm satisfied with this one. Did any commission members have any questions?
No, I mean, the work was done 21 years ago, it sounds like, so anything that would have been stabilized has long since been stabilized. And the only comment that I see from you was about the markers, and we've resolved that, so all good with me.
This is Jen. I just turned my computer off to conserve resources. My monitor, or camera rather.
Jen, you're breaking up. I can't make out what you're
Okay.
saying.
If you want to potentially ask your question in the chat, I can relay that to the applicant.
I think Jen just dropped off the meeting.
Okay.
I
I
mean,
guess we'll give her a minute or two to try to rejoin. But
yeah, since she's the acting chair, I think we should wait for her to rejoin. Otherwise, we'd have to designate a new chair.
okay. Ben or Maureen, you have any comments on this?
No, seems pretty
Sounds like
straightforward.
we've met everything.
Okie dokie. So we'll just wait for Jen for a moment. Thank you for your patience.
So far.
Okay, she's trying to rejoin.
Did you get dinner ready? Did you show yourself a good mercy and say,
Coming up next.
this isn't about that?
This is the septic system.
Hey, Jen.
Hi, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm not having much success with my internet. I feel like it's not meant to be. So I think we probably should vote to have somebody else take over. as the chair for the meeting, if that's, I'm sorry to interrupt this, if, I don't even know if you took a vote.
No, not yet. We were waiting for you to rejoin.
Okay,
before we
my
start.
apologies. I mean, on this one, before we get to that, I guess, my only question, and I'm sorry if you covered this, was that I know that there's a note that the wall was built slightly within the buffer zone. Do we have a sense of how much in the buffer zone? And I guess, when was this built? Was this built over 20 years ago?
Yes.
Has it? Okay, all right, so.
And according to the engineer, I think it was one small corner of that wall is in the buffer zone, but not by much. The rest of the wall is not, apparently.
Okay,
It's like a few feet at most into the buffer zone.
okay.
Into the 200 foot or the 100 foot?
The
The
100, oh, yeah,
100, right?
I believe so, yes. Yeah.
All right, I mean, where it's been there for so long and it sounds like it's de minimis, I'm okay with that. And it's in connection with the septic system and, I guess it's a retaining wall. I don't know if that's really 100% in connection with it, but it's been there for so long. I'm satisfied with the change.
I agree.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? Anyone from the public? All right, do we have a motion?
I'll put forward a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for order of conditions number 307-0410 for 35 Howlett Street, map 33, lot 25, with the continuing conditions as stated in the order of conditions.
Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
Great, how do we vote? Jen DeCarlo, aye.
Andrew Mulholland, aye.
Maureen Bresnahan, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.
Great, all right, Mr. McKinnon, just follow up with the office for your certificate of compliance, which, you'll have to record with the Registry of Deeds to clear your title.
And
Thank
then
you.
there's the second one that we're moving on to, so don't
Oh.
leave yet.
Okay, don't leave yet, all right.
Wrong
Oh,
one.
my thing is separated here, so I apologize.
And you're sounding pretty clear right now, so.
I know, I don't know what happened. It's like, all right, so we'll continue on, but if it breaks up again, I'm out. So, I mean, or I'll just try to vote. All right, so the next one is a request for certificate of compliance OOC 3070432 for 35 Howlett Street, map 33, lot 25. Mr. McKinnon, or Jackie, whoever wants to tell us a little bit about this particular request.
Well, this is where I have to throw myself on the mercy of the court, I guess. We did everything, I believe, that we needed to do, except the paperwork and the recording. And the excuse for that, if you will, is that I was at the time crazy at work and dealing with travel and with my son's mental health issues. So we got the work done mostly because I didn't have to be involved in it, but the paperwork was my responsibility and that did not happen. So with that, I have submitted the plan for the planting that we did. We did have a plan done that was done by a designer, Hillary Holsworth. She had Corliss put in a couple of the trees and we did the rest of it.
She did the rest.
She did, yeah, she did the rest. So we put in way more plantings than were required based on the trees that had to come down. The other things that were on the list when we got our extension, if you will, were the building of a split rail fence along the edge of our driveway, mainly to keep my father-in-law from going over the edge and down the hill. We did do that. There was a request to rebuild the stone wall that goes along Howlett Street. That was sort of done. The guy didn't do much of a job, but we did address that. We had asked for permission to put some steps down, some granite steps down in front of the house, down the hill, and then on either side of it, put a stone wall in place, which would have really been nice, and we were granted permission to do that, but you didn't send us any money to do it with, so it didn't happen to it didn't get done.
We also commissioned for retaining wall, but
Yeah, that's not included in this. So that's kind of what happened. And again, I am guilty as charged about the paperwork. I would hope because we've done the actual work that maybe we can get this resolved.
Okay.
That was also 20 years ago.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll
I'll
share.
ask Jackie if she has any input. Oh,
Yeah, so I'll share first of all that list of which items were done and which were not, just
Yep.
as a summary. So the stone steps and rock walls were not done, but the rebuilding of the existing rock wall, the fence along the driveway, and then removal of trees was done. This is the planting plan that I had asked for. Because the original order of conditions required that the planting plan be submitted prior to starting work, and it seems like that was not done because I couldn't find a planting plan in my big stack of files. The original order of conditions had required that the plantings be native species and that the plan be approved by the commission or administrator. See what it said.
Non-invasive, preferably native.
It said all proposed plantings shall be of non-invasive native species.
Preferably native.
Plantings shall be of sufficient number and size to adequately restore resource area functions and values that will be lost with the removal of the 15 matured trees. And it said prior to commencement of tree cutting activities, a restoration planting plan with information on species and proposed planting locations shall be submitted and approved by the Conservation Administrator or TCC. So
can I just ask a quick question here, Jackie?
yeah, go ahead.
I see in the notes the term preferably native plants here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there was some confusion about that because the order was extended and amended. And in the amended version of the order, there were new conditions that said, let's see the words, non-invasive trees and other non-invasive, preferably native plantings on the slope down from the house. So the amended order restated some of the conditions, but some were written differently. The amended order also said on the last page that all conditions on the original order apply to the amended order.
Okay.
I just found that on the last page of the amended order of conditions. So it is a little bit conflicting that the new amended order said like what did it say? Preferably native plantings, but then the amended order also said that the original order of conditions, all of those conditions still apply. So it could be interpreted that they still should have been native species. But the applicants were responsive in providing me with this plan of what they did plant. And I think a few of them could be potentially native, but it doesn't say the exact species, so it's hard to tell. And most of them appear to be non-native of those that were planted. So I think
Lana told us.
and then the other thing is that the applicants are wishing not to submit an as-built plan because some of those items that were more like engineered hardscaping were not completed. So it's up to the commission whether or not to accept a certificate of compliance request without the engineer letter and plan, which are typically required. But the
Were
original
they-
plan, I think, was just a sketch on top of an engineered plan that showed the trees that were to be removed.
Just another quick question. When you say that the as-built plans are typically required, are they typically required now, or were they typically required 20 years ago? Because, I don't necessarily want to, the work was completed 20 years ago, and I understand that sometimes things happen and paperwork doesn't get filed, and I just want to be fair to the applicant that we're not holding them to standards that we have right now when the work was actually completed 20 years ago, and we're trying to get some paperwork done.
I believe that the order of conditions did have that requirement 20
Okay.
years ago. I mean,
Okay.
I have seen past permits from that long ago that do have the plan, but in the case where an engineered plan wouldn't have been necessary for the work that was done, that's a situation where you may not need an engineered plan.
Okay, thank you.
If it's simple enough work that I mean, usually we wouldn't accept an order of conditions. I mean, a notice of intent without an engineer plan, but if it's something so simple.
Listen for that.
Yep,
So I think
understand.
the questions for the commission is, I guess, whether this planting plan adequately meets the requirements, or if any additional planting or approval of planting plans would be required to meet the intent of the orders. And then the other thing is whether the hand-drawn plan is acceptable, or whether any more detail would need to be provided.
I'm not sure what other detail we could provide. The plantings are all there.
You've seen them. How do you see them?
They're properly positioned on the plan that I did give you, and
Yes, you've seen them.
and you have seen them, yeah. So I mean, what other information could I possibly give you at this stage?
You've seen them.
I think one option that the commission may or may not want is like for instance the species names of the plants, if they wanted to judge whether the dogwood is a native one, the
We would
viburnum,
we would have no way of determining that at 20 years out. I mean, we
Yeah.
really wouldn't have to do a DNA test on a tree.
oh, it's not that difficult. You can,
Well,
as long as someone can.
I hope
I
you're
mean,
gonna spare me that.
I can try to identify them if you need me to, but you can usually tell if you look closely at them.
Probably native again.
Yep.
But that's, I mean, open question for the commission. I think ultimately their decision. I'll stop the screen share, but I can
Yeah,
go back to it if needed.
Thank you.
I mean, it's not perfect, obviously. It's old, which doesn't, not that that's like, a Band-Aid on everything, but the fact that the more permanent hardscaping things did not take place, I guess if there was a certificate of compliance to issue, it should note that, that we're not doing an amended order of conditions at this point. How could we reflect that in the certificate of compliance? Obviously there's no plan. You know what I mean? Jackie, do you have like a suggestion for that? Because we obviously don't want that, say, going to sell the house. I mean, we just don't want that to have been blessed in any way, because it wasn't installed. And now there's the way I look at it, that's kind of, you got to balance the scales here a little bit. They didn't do that stuff, so that's off the table. If they came forward again in the future, they'd have to reapply for that, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, options for that, I could write it on the form that certain, like the certificate of compliance form, that certain items were not done as part of the project. I wish there was like a box to check that certain items were not completed and certain items were, because there is a box to check that no work was completed. Then there's partial, but partial implies that it's not fully closed out. But I've been advised in the past by DEP that if half of the project was done and half of it wasn't, but it's still like a stable situation, you can just note it on the COC. Another option would be to also maybe attach a plan with that note on it, like the as-built. I mean, we don't really have an as-built
Yeah.
plan, but we have a sketch with the trees. Maybe, I mean, we could attach some sort of plan that's indicating that, or maybe even just the letter.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the letter does pretty clearly delineate what happened and what didn't happen. So a reference to that, or that being attached, and then your comments on the COC about, that you on your site visit, like what, confirming that these things did in fact happen and these things did not happen. I mean,
Yeah.
I think at this point that's kind of the best that we can ask for. Yeah, not to jump the gun, but in terms of the plantings, I mean, they've been in place for 20 years. I'm sure the rest of the soil has been stabilized by other species. And the sort of difficulty of the language about preferably native and all that stuff, I think at this point things are stabilized. There's canopy. I don't think any of those are I would consider invasive. And so I think at this point we can let sleeping dogs lie.
I agree. I think the preferably language kind of does it for me, because this is an amendment, and so I arguably, to some degree, it would supersede the prior order, I would think.
Yeah.
So I'm okay.
Yeah, I
with
mean,
it.
I did find language stating that it doesn't supersede it, but it was confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We're talking about something that happened 20 years ago. So, unless we can magically produce a recording of that meeting, we don't know the discussion that happened then. So,
Any other questions or comments from anybody on the commission or the public?
No.
Okay, so I think we're ready for a vote then. Does somebody want to make a motion?
I can attempt to make a motion. So I will put forward a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for order of conditions number 307-0432 for 35 Howlett Street, map 33, lot 25, with the continuing conditions as stated in the order of conditions, and that on the certificate of compliance, the letter that delineates what work was completed and what work was not completed will be attached, along with comments by the conservation administrator confirming the work that was and was not completed.
And I guess I would just amend that to say that it'll either be attached or incorporated by reference.
Yeah, I'll amend my
Sorry.
motion to take that language.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Excellent. How do we vote? Jen DeCarlo, aye.
Andrew Mulholland, aye.
Maureen Bresnahan, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. I think that's it for you tonight.
All righty. Well, thank you
right.
very much.
Thank you. Check in with the office for the certificate of compliance.
Very good. Will do. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so the next matter on for tonight is the request for certificate of compliance OOC 307-0844. This is for 46 Alderbrook Drive, map 68, lot 15, wetlands and land management, and Sperry Dacos is the applicant, I believe. And is
Hi, good evening. It's Bill
Oh.
Manuel from Wetlands and Land Management, and John and Yana Speridakos are here as well.
Good evening. We're here.
There are three matters on the agenda tonight. There are two enforcement orders, which we are trying to get a return to compliance letter. And then there is an order of conditions open that we are trying to get a certificate of compliance. The certificate of compliance is the first on the agenda, and that seems to be the most contentious one. So we'll start there. if you prefer. It turned out there were some other matters. There was a rusty barrel that we had noted and asked that to be removed. That has been removed. There were two no disturb posts that were to be installed since the last meeting. They have been installed. And then the last matter was, and then there was some shrubs. There was 11 shrubs that were installed. I found 10 of them living at the end of last season, and one of them had perished. That's still the case here, although we have seen now in the springtime, as things are starting to leaf out, some of the shrubs are a little bit behind, I would think. They seem to have been browsed heavily during the winter, either by rabbits or deer. And so what would normally be the new vigorous growth has been nipped off. And so many of the shrubs are sort of pushing out side shoots from the main stem in an effort to sort of keep on living. So, but they are living, and it's just going to be a while, a little bit later this spring before those actually leaf out. We did measure those shrubs. I think we were supposed to be 3 feet. Most of them came in around 2.5 feet, but that's after they were nipped off this previous winter. So hopefully we get some good vigorous growth, and they would in fact end up being 3+ feet if we keep the wildlife off of them. But a larger matter, and I'm going to share my screen now, is the location of the fence approved versus what was as built. And you would ask me to figure out what's the difference in area that was enclosed by the fence. So this is a snapshot of the approved plan. And this green area was intended to be a mitigation area. You can see the original fence location on the plan was this red line. And during the last hearing, the commission suggested, why don't you try to increase the amount of mitigation and separation between the maintained part of the property and then the slope where that was the subject of the enforcement order. And so the final plan reflected a fence that had this configuration, the heavy black line cut across instead of doing this. And then there were supposed to be 11 shrubs that were to be installed roughly 10 feet on center within this green area. Now, what had happened is there were 11 shrubs installed, but they were installed within this clouded area. And I'll roll back up now to the as-built plan. So the as-built fence location turns out to be this red dash and dot line, as opposed to what should have been through here, straight, and then straight across. So the fence configuration is a little off. You can see here it bumped out a little beyond this, what was intended to be a straight line. And when you're on the site, frankly, Jackie, I didn't even realize this until you had left, but what this fence did is it enclosed really what was already maintained lawn. Instead of cutting across what was open maintained grass, it wasn't great grass here, but there was clumps of grass and some moss and stuff. But the brush line was even just a little bit outside of this fence here. This is where that barrel was. So I could see why that was, whoever installed the fence, they put it like that. The area in question, this mitigation area, you can see that it actually bumped in a little bit, and the fence enclosed less area. This blue highlight here is about 93 square feet of less property that was enclosed by the fence. However, here's where the deviation is that kind of really matters. And this pink shaded area here is about 583 square feet. That is enclosed by fence now that was not supposed to be enclosed by fence. And then these are the 11 shrubs, and they were all crowded into one small portion of what was intended to be the mitigation area, as opposed to being spread out throughout the mitigation area. So we're here tonight that you asked me for this documentation, and I've given it to you. The commission, basically this approved plan here, it is intended to have provided 1,205 square feet of mitigation. We can certainly fix most of this by redistributing these shrubs or just adding additional shrubs to cover this area that was intended to be mitigation. But there's this additional 480 square feet that's enclosed by the fence. Obviously, the Speridakos would like to not have to remove their fence and reposition it. If the commission is intent on capturing that original mitigation, then I would suggest that a better solution would be to just install more shrubs inside the fence. This is all grass right now. And relocate the no disturb marker to a location like this to signify that, that area inside the fence is not to be touched. Or the other thing we can do is expand mitigation sort of in this location or other areas of the property to, make up the balance, that 480 square feet, and achieve the same amount of mitigation. So we need to get some direction from the commission where you would, what you would like to see here. And before I turn it over to the commission, John and Yana, is that a fair representation of what happened and the options that you see as feasible?
Yeah. Yep. I think that's fair.
And I think the error was we gave the wrong plot plan, I think, or we just didn't update the fence people, because with the right the updated or corrected fence, I think. But I think those two options would definitely be ideal. I would add the planting inside the fence would probably create more positive life for the plants, just because they'll be less eaten from the wildlife. So I think inside the fence would probably be more successful. The area behind that fence historically has never had any vegetation, and I think the soil is just not great. And I think it's just rocky, so things aren't really catching. I think inside the fence we could probably maintain it better to have more successful plantings going forward. I think hindsight we could see that the vegetation back there doesn't last. That's all I would add. So Bill, just to kind of like summarize, because there's a lot going on here. The fence was installed in connection with, enclosing the backyard, and it was installed in a different location than was proposed. And as a result, it encompassed, it looks like it encompassed some of the lawn area, and then it went off the line and further into the resource area. Does that summarize it as far as the fence goes?
It did not go into any resource area. This is all buffer zone.
Oh, sorry, buffer zone.
But it encumbered an area that was intended for mitigation.
Okay. And the second piece of it is the plantings went beyond or out of the area that they were supposed to be planted in.
They were not well distributed through the mitigation area, yes.
Okay. All right. So just trying to simplify here for our purposes. Um, do we have photos, Jackie? Do you have photos of the area? Because it would be helpful to see like what the inside of that fence looks like and what it looks like on the outside of that fence.
Yes, I have photos. I'll share my screen. So to start, here's an example of what a lot of the plants are looking like right now, where there's only kind of a few leaves at the bottom. You can see one in back that's doing pretty well. But I think about half of the plants were kind of in this state where there's kind of only a few leaves at the bottom. We were speculating that they might have been planted a little bit too high and the root ball might not have been broken up enough. Maybe, and then they also may have been munched on by animals. So here's some of those plants in that area. You can see the fence in the background.
It doesn't really look like a wooded area, but maybe you've been there. Is it when you're there?
Well, I think it was originally maintained lawn, and we are using it as a mitigation area by planting natives into it.
Oh,
Okay.
this was from the other.
And that's just my current understanding. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct, Andrew.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, here it was in March when I did the prior site visit before it leafed out. But you can see there's kind of woods going around here. I don't remember if the erosion controls were ever taken out, but I had asked
They were.
that last time.
yeah, I took them out.
Okay, great.
I guess my question goes to like, is it being mowed around those plants? Because it is pretty
Oh.
low. It hasn't like,
No.
you know, no.
No,
Okay.
Yeah, there's no really.
No.
Anyways, yeah.
There's no growth over there. Like most of our yard, it gets pretty well, like just a lot of weeds, but that area does not. I
Yeah,
don't think it's because it's shaded.
even the lawn back here within the fence area, I mean, it gets mowed, but it's not thriving, you know.
Yeah, it
it's
doesn't
just,
thrive back
it's
there.
mostly moss and, you know, I mean, I don't know the technical terms, but it doesn't get a lot of sunlight back there. So it's,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Jackie, you're concerned about the particular the post?
Yeah,
Is-
so the post was meant to be installed right outside the fence, but since the fence is not where it was supposed to be, the post may have been installed correctly compared to the fence, but then it's both the post and the fence are now a little bit further back than they should be. That
It
makes sense.
seems pointless there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like you're accessing the backyard and there's a sign on the other side of the fence. So like, wouldn't it make more sense to have like something that like a medallion that gets attached to the fence on the inside, and then this being like further out or in a perimeter area so that, you know, anybody out there walking around can see it. I mean, even if I'm looking at that, is the little whatever it is decal facing like somebody would have to be on the other side of the fence
Yeah.
looking at it. It seems like pointless, right?
Yeah, I mean, we typically require that it be facing the house, like so that you can read it when you're walking from the house in toward the wetland. So that they did that part correctly in terms of facing it away from the wetland.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see what you mean, where you'd read it from behind the fence, but then
we can certainly put it on the fence too. That's fine.
Well, like I've seen them like where they attach them to trees, they attach them. I think you could get something that attaches to the fence that, you know, shows that it's a protected area, but
Would
the
it be
post
the same
itself is
the same decal or?
um Yeah, I think so. I don't know if I've seen them in other jurisdictions. I don't know. Jackie, do we have anything like that we've used?
We've had like a meadow restoration area sign that was
Mm.
different from our typical but in this case, if we were to do that, we might want like the typical information from the conservation marker to be put on the sign.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of places that will make custom signs. I don't know if the little square that we have could be attached to a fence. That does seem a little difficult,
Yeah.
but maybe.
So in terms, I mean, there's a couple different things to discuss here. My thoughts on the placement of these. Right now, we're operating under the assumption that all of the space outside the fence is restoration, basically in that area. But I think one of the options that we were discussing was having some of the space inside the fence also count towards restoration area.
Right.
And so I don't know if our current if we go forward with that, still up for discussion. You know, having like a double layer of these decals potentially is unnecessary.
Sure. Yeah, we would just put it on the front, right?
In front of the planting.
If we plant more
Yeah.
inside, we would just put it before that, right?
Yeah. But I absolutely hear you, Jen. I think if we end up going the route of the restoration outside the fence, then I would definitely like to see something on that gate. You know, so when you open the gate, it's right there telling you everything past here is protected space. And then, you know, potentially something as you walk, if you're walking around the fence to this area, as you walk towards it there, that says you're heading into a space that is protected. You're muted right now, Jen. Sorry.
Thanks. Sorry. Correct me if I'm wrong though. With the picture that we were looking at, there was a trampoline there.
Yeah.
Is that the area we're talking about? Possibly planting plants right in front of the fence over there?
Well, it would be,
Part of it, but we can certainly move the trampoline.
Yeah, it
would
just seems
generally
weird, though. Sorry.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, it would be generally be between the fence and the trampoline is to make up the extra 480 some square feet.
Okay. So I just it's just odd to me that there's lawn there and we're gonna just throw some plants in there and it's you know, it's not like we're breaking up the lawn and turning it into natural ground cover and you know, is it gonna be a no mow area?
Yeah, well, what we did in the front, remember, with the enforcement order in the front, rather than tear out the turf grass and make the area unstable now, we just let the turf grass grow, and you'll see pictures of that in just a few minutes. And it makes a very sharp demarcation when you stop mowing it, you know, where the mitigation area is. And ultimately, the shrubs mature, the turf dies out, but at least you have ground stabilization in the meantime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think at a minimum, any of our restoration areas are going to be no mow areas, Jen.
But I think that this is kind of pointless. I'm going to be completely blunt. I see no point in doing plantings in this tiny little area between the fence and the trampoline. I think they probably belong on the other side of the fence, just given the history there. That's just my opinion. I think that, you know, we're looking for an area that's respected, honored, and not disturbed any further. And I think the fence was the intention was to demarcate that, and it's unfortunate that even the fence that was for that purpose is not installed correctly. So I personally don't have a ton of faith, but I love that everybody's here in the room, and so I'd love to see. You know, I'm not a punitive person. I think it's pointless to have the stuff in this tiny little wedge between the trampoline and the fence. I think put it on the other side of the fence, but I think properly demarcate it so that, you know, if it's getting hit from, if people are walking back there, they can see it. You know, I think that's the point. I don't think it's next to the fence is the point. It may be what we do, but I think it's like insufficient. You could have that there in addition to other posts that really clearly demarcate that this is a no disturb zone. And then the plantings need to be properly planted and cared for so that they take off, you know. But I know we're here on a certificate of compliance.
Yep.
And perhaps that's better for the enforcement. So that's my opinion. No, you guys don't have to share it, but I see no value with this property and putting it inside the fence near the house.
Yeah, Jen, I mean, I agree with you. I guess my difficulty now is that we are down 480 square feet of space. And so how do we want to make that up with a bunch of additional plantings on the outside and consider that equal? Is there anywhere else in the property that we could potentially create some more restoration space? I mean, I appreciate that the applicant offered
Oh,
plant inside I'm not sure that it's, going to be the best path forward right now, but I appreciate that it was offered. I think that does say a lot.
I think we might be okay with either, like Bill proposed, like, extending it back there, or maybe extending part of the front also.
an important threshold question that we should probably prioritize is whether the option of moving and relocating the fence to go to the original plan is on or off the table.
Nope.
It's a fence. It's not a stone wall. So, it's amenable to being moved. Does moving the fence to match the original plan kind of solve some of these problems?
Yeah. I mean, it would be, yeah. I mean, the ideal
And
world is that the fence was installed in the right place, and so our options are, require that they move the fence, and I guess I'll, ask the applicants what their thoughts are on that. But I absolutely, I mean, I agree with you, Maureen. Moving the fence would solve a lot of these problems.
I mean, I want to apologize. I think what happens when we gave the fence installers the drawing, I did explain to them that it's going at the black line, but I think maybe, the crew that he left with went along the red line instead. And then when I got home, like, they popped it up in a day.
Yep.
When I got home, I honestly
Have you made inquiries?
because
Have you gotten an estimate from the installer, or would you consider asking the installer to, if it was the installer's mistake, asking them to correct their mistake?
the thing is, yeah, we installed it. I think it was 3 years ago now, and we didn't really. Honestly, I didn't. It never came up even after we walked through with Heidi and Bill multiple times. The fence location didn't come up until recently, so we didn't even know that it was off. So I came home. I thought that's just where it was planned to be.
Yep.
Didn't really notice a difference. And so we didn't really think about it. So it's been a few years now since it's been installed. It's got to be past, any reasonable
Warranty.
request now. Well, even a reasonable request to talk to them about moving it. I think the timing has gone on too long.
Yep.
I don't know if we have the budget to move it. I mean, it's not going to be cheap. I'm sure of that, because we're going to have to, just the demolition of it. I don't know how many of these panels we could reuse, if any. Honestly, we haven't looked at it, that I can assure you it's going to be pretty expensive, I think, to move it. And I'm not sure we're in a position to do that anytime soon.
How much did it cost you to build it 3 years ago in its entirety?
It was probably about, I want to say maybe 10,000. Something in the, between 10 and 15, maybe.
I mean, I'd love to see that little restoration area a lot better. I feel like that would be it. But to me, it looks like lawn with a couple of, random ornamentals thrown in. It's not really doesn't look like a mitigation area to me.
Yeah,
And that
I will say I recall at the meeting, the idea of moving the fence and casting that black line was sort of at the end of the meeting here, let's maybe increase separation and try to get more mitigation. There wasn't a ton of thought put into that.
Yeah, yeah.
There are better locations on the property that where, when we talk about mitigation, I always look for areas where you can build off the existing woods, close in areas. There are definitely better locations on the property to create mitigation as opposed to trying to make that little triangle something that's viable. So we could identify an additional, 480, 500 square feet and do a similar plant distribution, and you'll probably target areas that are already grass or very thin vegetation growth on the edge of the woods, and work with Jackie and come up with another 500 square feet.
Bill, excuse me. Where are you
Yes.
coming up with the 500 square feet number?
The 500, and I'll share my screen again.
Why aren't you going after the net?
Well, I could go after the net, which would be a little bit smaller number.
I thought net was 774 per your drawing.
Yeah, let me just call it up again.
If I can, the upper area then I think was already grass. And so when the fence company installed it, I think that area was, the 282 square feet that I think you're referring to was already grass. And so they just fenced around the grass to the fence line. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Bill.
Yeah.
I guess I took a leap of faith here. Since this wasn't part of mitigation, I really wasn't discussing this. Just the fence followed the edge of lawn. I'm assuming that if we showed it like that, the commission would not have any issue with it at the time of the order of conditions. I was more focused on what was required for the mitigation. And here it's 583, not 483. So the number is right here, 583.
Yeah, and then your net number in the bottom right corner is 772, right?
Yeah, that included both pink areas minus this blue area. But in terms of what was required for mitigation, we ended up short. Actually, excuse me, there's this little area that was enclosed that was outside the mitigation area. But this sort of trapezoidal feature, that's the 480. So, whatever number we decide on, as I said, there are other areas to build on, especially out in front, that are going to be probably more successful in terms of being able to provide mitigation.
I guess
we
from my
could take
point of
these
view,
plants and redistribute. I think that's a good start, is to take these plants that are all clustered and redistribute them all through what was supposed to be the mitigation area, and then come up with the additional 480.
And we're happy to do that in the front if that works with the commission. There's plenty of room up there. And
When you say redistribute the plantings, are you saying move these plantings?
Or add more.
Yeah, I
No,
would
I think it's an add more situation.
keep them there.
Those
Yeah,
plants,
if the
those
plants are
11
already
plants were
distressed,
supposed,
they may not like to be uprooted and replanted.
possibly. But the plants are supposed to be distributed throughout this entire green area. And as you can see, this little cloud here, that's
Yep.
where they ended up.
I mean,
So we can add more to these areas, to this area here, to fill it in, and then come up with an additional 480 square feet.
well, what about taking? Actually, I was curious, Ben. What was your take on it? Because I don't think you got to articulate what your.
I'm just very simple. If you say that you took over 772 square feet that wasn't supposed to be fenced, I'd be perfectly fine if we did 772 of restoration outside the fence and we called it a day. But I don't know why you're presenting the net, loss, I guess I would look at it, of 772 square feet. You guys prepared this document. So to me,
Yep. Well, I
I
explained
think I
it.
would want to see 772, and I'm okay with it being outside of the fence.
Yeah.
If we didn't think the 282 was consequential, I don't know why it's listed in there. but you're also taking back for the 93. So when I look at a net, I want to see net neutral.
We're okay going with the 772 if we can get it kind of, spread out into different areas. Or wherever it would work best, really. I mean, like we said, even if we were to entertain moving that fence and planting within that pink area, I don't think they'd do well there, because again, it was lawn in the past and just nothing really grows back there.
Not even the grass
Yeah,
grows.
right.
Yeah, I'm not super concerned where it is either.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I see the map. To me, it sounds like we have a variance of 772, and I guess I would say in a proposal to make everyone whole, I just want to see that back somewhere.
I think we're okay with that.
Okay, so, but we're not really ready, I think, to move forward with the certificate of compliance then, because it sounds like a little bit more work needs to be done on locating the 772.
Yep.
And I guess technically or procedurally, Jackie, is that, there is a change from what was planned in terms of where the fence is. So is this really the right position to have a certificate of compliance issue, or is it an amended order of conditions? Or is it something in between, just a,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's up to the commission to I mean, if the commission really thinks that the work went beyond the scope of the notice of intent in such a way that it really can't be brought into compliance, then I think at this point it's expired, so it would need to be a whole new notice of intent. But I think if we can resolve the issue and bring it into what the commission would consider to be substantial compliance, even if it's not exactly the same, without introducing any extreme amounts of new work that would require a new notice of intent. I think plantings or moving a fence just to bring it into compliance wouldn't in themselves require a new notice of intent.
Can I just summarize for a second what we've sort of discussed in terms of what potential, what the commission's current path forward might look like? So one would be moving some of the conservation markers, notably one being affixed to the gate that leads to the back, and then potentially others demarking this space as a no-touch zone. And that the original 11 plants that were in the back, that we add some number of more plants to that area. I don't know what that number might be yet. I'm just summarizing. And that there are 772 square feet of space elsewhere on the property is turned into restoration space. And then those restoration spaces would also have conservation markers around them denoting for that, these are protected spaces. If in my, personally, if those things all happen, I'm okay with the fence not getting moved. I think we're mostly, going to be net neutral on what happened. Is it ideal? No. But I think at that point I'd be happy.
I agree.
And just a point of clarification, the order of conditions is still open, and we actually got that 2-year tolling period. So we have almost 3 years left on the order.
Okay.
Okay.
I agree with Andrew's synopsis. I think the only thing I'm struggling with is just the procedural aspect of it. How do we kind of clean this up? I think that's the only issue, because normally something like this, they'd be maybe they'd have an enforcement order against them and have to present a restoration plan, and and that might also lead to a notice of intent. But this is an open order of conditions, so to me it feels like an amendment to the order of conditions. But obviously that's another, which they'd have to renotice it, right? And
Yeah, I mean, if the applicant had, done this work and then did these three things themselves without telling us that they were going to do them, and they presented this to us
Yes.
for a certificate of compliance, I think it's not unreasonable that we would have accepted the
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the
Compliance.
question, is whether the
So,
commission would have approved it if it had been presented this way as the certificate of
I
compliance request.
Yeah.
who
Yeah,
knows? But
yeah.
I think with where we're standing right now, if these things happen, I'd be fairly comfortable. And I think the procedural aspect, which thank you, Jen, for making a point of it, is kind of whatever makes administratively things go the most smoothly. I mean, as long as everything's recorded at the end, I think we're
Yeah, I
mostly
mean,
in the clear.
basically, they come back in for their COC, but they'll have a plan that shows that, hey, we didn't put the fence substantially where it was supposed to be, or a little bit. It's substantially, but it's changed a little bit, and so in anticipation of that being an issue, we've mitigated 772 square feet, and this is the plantings we've put in, and so based on our substantial compliance and mitigating, can you give us our COC? Here's our new plan that we can reference, and we're all good, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sounds reasonable to me. This is that part of things is not where I excel, so I will definitely defer to whether that makes sense to Jackie and Jen with your knowledge on that.
I think it makes sense to me because they're gonna take other areas that are non-resource areas and mitigate, so they don't really need our approval on that.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it'll all be in the buffer zone. The good portion of the front is, or all of the front is buffer zone, if I remember correctly.
A good portion of the
A
front.
good portion of it. Yeah. So I mean, the restoration spaces ideally would be in the buffer zone.
Okay.
Okay.
And we'll work with Bill to figure out exactly where, what, right?
Yeah, I would just say just try not to be paltry on the plantings. It shows when they're not, when the plantings are not great, or it's the minimum thing that's selected. Let's try to strive for success and restoring the area. And I know it's outside of the fence, so it's easy to forget about those things, but the whole point of the exercise is to create this no touch area that's going to succeed. So so that we don't have to see you again. I'm sure you don't want to waste your time, coming here. So the goal is to work with Bill, and Bill can do a lovely job because we've seen all of his other wonderful work in town, at picking plants that are going to work, working with Jackie, and also just the number and scale of things, doing it so that it shows a good faith effort in trying to resolve it. And part of that's on us, if we only require whatever 4 plants, and you put in the 4 blueberry bushes like everybody else does, then I guess, you get away with, the doing it. But please just in good faith, try to, not that you wouldn't, but consider the fact that we're trying to succeed in really mitigating this issue. And we understand that your property is subject to these resource areas, so it's or the buffer zone, so it's challenging.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that what we need to do then on this is a motion to continue the COC one for now, because I don't think we're ready to obviously issue that until
Right.
the applicant comes back. So is there any other discussion on that?
Only when would we continue it to the next meeting, or do we want to push it out some unknown number of months?
I guess
Yeah.
it depends on whether we would want to review the like a new plan prior to it being implemented, or if I should just work with the applicant on incorporating those suggestions, and then they come back once everything's been planted and stabilized and everything.
I'm fine with you. They're coming to you, Jackie. And
Yeah, me as well. I trust you.
Yeah.
I
So
guess
That's the what we're looking for.
Bill or the applicants, maybe do you want to propose a date that we continue to, just so we don't have to have you reapply for a certificate of compliance?
Yeah, it certainly won't be next month because
Yep.
we're
July
so
8th, I
what
think
is
it
the
I think
Yeah,
we
I
could-
mean, and so to have the certificate of compliance, we would need to see all these restoration areas created and the additional plantings go in and the placards be moved. So I mean, you know, even potentially into the fall, we could be discussing here. I don't think probably planting, I mean, maybe for the next couple of weeks, things would be okay, but planting in the summer is a bad idea. So the plantings might be able to go in the fall season, or potentially in the spring, you know, in the next couple of weeks. But
I
I'll
think
definitely.
if we can meet with Jackie soon and figure out where to put what, then we can try to get it in, you know,
By the
within the
fall.
next couple of weeks, or, you know, obviously, like you said, not in the middle of the summer, but maybe we.
Yeah, and I mean, Bill and
Right.
Jackie are going to be your contact points on when the best planting times are for the different species and everything.
We can just pick a date too, and then they can
Yeah.
notify Jackie that we're not available. We're going to continue it further, and then we don't have
Right,
to go
right.
through all the rigmarole. So, I mean, why don't? Are you okay with that? With just arbitrarily picking, like we could do the July meeting,
Yeah, or
and then
August.
just or August, and just continue it.
That sounds good.
Yeah, why don't we pick the July meeting?
It's July 8th, I believe.
July 8th.
Yeah. So we just need a motion.
Okay. I can put. Are we no more discussion? I can put forward a motion. Okay. I'll put forward a motion to continue the discussion of the request for certificate of compliance for OOC 307-0844 for 46 Alderbrook 68 lot to our July meeting.
Do we have
I'll
a
second that motion.
Oh, great. How do we vote? Jen DeCarlo, aye.
Andrew Mulholland, aye.
Maureen Bresnahan, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.
Okay, so I know that we just to keep ourselves organized. So we just dealt with the certificate of compliance 3070844. And I know there was a little bit of overlap and discussion, but now I think let's move to the request for return to compliance on amended enforcement order 2020-05, 46 Alderbrook Drive, map 68, lot 15, wetlands and land management, Spariadocus. Bill, so can you just, I guess, I know you talked a little bit about this in the beginning, but let's now get back and just see if we can wrap that up.
Yep, so this was in the front yard. There was cutting of vegetation, the buffer zone, and we established we had a mitigation plan approved. There was some initial activity to remove a lot of dumped landscape debris, stumps, logs, et cetera. That happened almost right away in 2021. But the plantings did not get installed until 2023. I've given you, so now that the slope stabilization where most of the heavy debris was dumped, that's well stabilized. We're going on 4.5 years. And actually 5 years since the work's been done. There's no problem there. And so our biggest problem, frankly, was the deer just wanting to munch on everything. But a number of plants have survived. We were actually there when the landscapers were cutting the grass. The no disturb markers are in place, except for one has to be slightly adjusted. And they have been respecting that for the last several years. And you can see the grass is quite tall within this restored area. And so that's moving along well. And as I said, that's been in place for 2 years. And so we're looking for a return to compliance to close out that matter.
And so the only thing so the two points here are I remember in the last meeting we had a discussion on the survival rate, that about half of the planting survived, and then the other point to discuss would be that last conservation post still needs to be moved.
Yep, I didn't think that deer like to eat hemlocks, but there's living proof. And each one of those, they're not dead. The tops are still have plenty of needles on it, and these trees are trying like heck to survive. They're pushing out new needle growth on the very ends of those brown twigs.
Okay.
So, you know, and some of the some of the mortality could be the fact that, I mean, they were sweet fern, and they could have just been crowded out by letting the grass grow on it. But we do have a good distribution of plants, and it is marked, and the landscapers are respecting that. And
I see in the notes that 36 of the 72 plantings survived. Is that number improved now that things have had a chance to leaf out? Or do those numbers still hold?
no, I think they would hold because I did that in the fall.
Okay.
When everything was still in the growing season.
Okay, thank you.
As I said, the way I write these plans and the way it was approved is the first year we have a mortality standard, and we after the first report we had met that mortality standard, and then the second year we're not as concerned with the plant counts as we are seeing a good distribution of plants throughout the area. We know some are going to die. We might lose some because they're not exactly suited for that location, but we expect other plants to move in. We actually saw a large tree that actually fell into this restored area from the adjacent buffer zone. And we discussed about whether we should clean it up, and we agreed this is supposed to be naturalizing, so we're going to leave that in place. And so that's why I wasn't overly concerned about the second year and the 36 out of 72. We are moving towards a naturalization, and generally Mother Nature is going to do what she wants to do at this point.
Yeah. I also remember in our discussion that the enforcement order did not set, we didn't set our own
percent. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think at this point, like you said, things are starting to naturalize in their own. Other things will crop up. It's been a few years. I think plantings wise, we can leave this one be. You know, I'd like to see that post move before we issue the final certificate. And I know it's annoying to have to come back for it again. But if the other commission members are okay with things as they are, then so be it. But I mean, it's just I'd like to see as much stuff closed off before we issue it as possible.
Can Jackie hold the paperwork until we move it? Can you commission vote and issue a return to compliance letter, and then Jackie just holds it until that post is installed properly?
I'll look to Jackie to see if that's realistic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an option. The only risk is that if they never do it, then I never send the letter, and then like maybe they do it 10 years later and maybe I'm not there anymore, and then yeah.
No, you'll be visiting us for the other for the back. So we'll do it before your visit for that issue. It'll get moved. Plus we have a flag exactly where it's supposed to be. Thank you, Bill, for putting it there. So there's gonna be no confusion as to where it needs to go. So
well, yeah, I'm also wondering if we'll have to move these if they end up expanding the restoration area in the front. But if we move them further back towards the house or away from the wetland, that shouldn't be a problem.
Which post is this?
This one is just on the side, like, you see the picture of it. It's.
I guess I'm getting at, is it currently affecting, would anyone go into the area or mow or do anything because this post is not in place?
So there is a post in place. It's just not in the correct location.
Yeah, so it's here. I think this is it. It's off to the side, by the side.
No,
of
that's the backyard.
One behind the shed.
Oh, well, maybe I don't have a picture of it then, but let me see if maybe I can show on the plan.
I think that, you know, given that there's still work for the commission to do on this property, that, you know, knocking off, you know, this one 2020-5 matter really doesn't get us far. So I would say let's defer it.
Okay.
I agree. Let's just get the thing moved and they can report back to us and
Yeah.
that was it, July 8th
I don't know if you
meeting.
can see my cursor, but it was supposed to be like around here, and then it went and ended up over here, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just defer it because it's a small check the box item and we can, approve it in the next meeting.
All right. So
That's
for
fine
this,
with me.
oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I mean, that works for me. I don't know if there's a reason. Do the applicants need this, cleared right now, or are they okay to wait on this as well?
We can wait.
No, I was just hoping to have to log in, to avoid logging into another meeting to say the post is.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Hopefully, it won't be as complex next time.
Or does he need to be here for this though? I
No,
mean, like,
I don't know.
yeah.
If you need to
no,
be-
not for this one.
Yeah, I
No.
think honestly, no one would need to be here just for this, as long as you can give me enough evidence to
Perfect.
present to the commission that the post was installed.
Okay,
yeah. So do we need to actually formally continue this?
I think so, because it is a
We
request.
can just continue. Let's just
May
do a
as well.
motion to continue it.
Okay, and then so would this be for our meeting next month, or would we want to wait until the July 8th meeting on this?
John, can you get the post moved?
I can get it moved, but I mean, we have other things that, the other plantings that we talk about for July. So we would also just, if it works for you guys to just do it in one meeting. Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
One just for the post and then another one for the plantings, right? Yeah.
I think the July one will likely get moved though, because we're not going to be, I don't think we're going to be
Okay.
done.
So yeah, we can do it
Yeah.
next month. We'll do June if that works for you.
Yeah. And that way that's done. And then
Right.
the next meeting
Yeah.
you don't have to go to that one. We'll go, we'll attend.
Yeah,
Yeah, as long as you're confident that you'll be able to get the work done by the
Yeah.
June
Yeah,
meeting.
that's
Moving the post, I'll do that this
Yep.
weekend.
we can definitely.
All right,
When
so
is our June meeting?
June 10th.
June 10th.
June 10th. Thank you.
All right, so I think we need a motion to
Okay.
continue.
I can make a motion if the. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll put forward a motion that we continue the request for return to compliance for amended enforcement order 2020-05 for 46 Alderbrook Drive, map 68, lot 15 until our June 10th, 2026 meeting.
I second.
And how do we vote? Jen DeCarlo, aye.
Andrew Mulholland, aye.
Maureen Bernstein, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.
Okay, finally, we have a request for return to compliance of amended enforcement order 2023-02. That's for 46 Alderbrook Drive, map 68, lot 15, wetlands and land management, Sperry Docos. All right, why don't you tell us about this one?
So this was again debris removal and slope stabilization. There were no special plantings other than we seeded that slope. And the last comment was, please remove the erosion control, and that's been done.
Great,
Great.
Yep, I think this one's all set.
awesome.
Andrew, make a motion.
Okay, can do. I'll put forward a motion to issue a return to compliance letter for amended enforcement order 2023-02 at 46 Alderbrook Drive, map 68, lot 15.
I second that motion.
And how do we vote? Jen DeCarlo, aye.
Andrew Mulholland, aye.
Maureen Bernstein, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.
Great. All right, thank you so much for your patience and your cooperation. We appreciate it. And we'll see you at the July or June meeting. rather.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Have a
Yeah.
great night.
Good night.
Thank
Good night.
you. Okay, so it looks like we have an enforcement order to discuss. This is 2024-02 involving 92 Parsonage Lane, map 17, lot 4, specifically an update on the restoration work. Is Mr. Dyken here?
I am.
Hi, Mr. Dyken. Do you want to provide an update?
Yeah, so winter's over, the ground is thawed, and I am back on task. I've sent Jackie a couple of update photos, one in early April where I hadn't really kind of committed myself to the work whole hog yet, one in mid-April where I've made some substantial progress, one in May, and one in just this morning. Jackie, hopefully you have some photos to show to get everyone back up to speed. But I've started breaking apart the stone and mortar wall. I purchased a jackhammer to assist. and I've been removing the debris from the wall as well. I probably have removed about 20% of the wall at this point. It takes probably a full day to do the material breakup. And so I devote that to weekends. I'm probably going to do another substantial portion this weekend, but the rest of my time I've been spending removing the stone dust and debris. And I've been making steady progress. So continuing the work pretty much daily and making steady progress. Happy to answer.
It's a big project. We appreciate all your efforts. It's a lot.
Well, if you broke it, you bought it.
Yeah, and appreciate your good attitude too, although I'm sure you're not when you're jackhammering. So you're the one that knows best, I think, the time frame, because it's your time and energy that is being put into this restoration. So it looks like I don't recall what our last deadline was, Jackie. I don't know if you have that.
It was before, I think it was around this meeting that it's expiring, so we have to decide on the new, whether to extend the deadline, and if so, when.
And our approach, if I may paraphrase, has been that this is going to be a moving target. We know that, Mr. Dyken is doing the work himself. He's doing it by hand. So, we've been flexible about this. So, so like another update, another deadline, or not a deadline for completion, or are we framing it as completion and then he can come back in and extend it?
And just to add to that, Jackie, do you know when we last set a deadline? Like, how many months has it been since we last discussed this?
It was in the fall, I think.
Okay.
November, if I remember
So
correctly.
like six-ish
somewhere around
months.
then. Yeah. So we had required monthly updates to me anytime that work is taking place, which I've been receiving those updates. And then we required him to attend this meeting to give an update, and then we left the option in the enforcement order for the commission to extend the deadline further, as agreed to by the commission.
Oh, banging my toe. So
Yeah.
it seems pretty straightforward. We need to extend the deadline.
Yep, I agree. We meet again in the fall.
Yeah, I want to do another November. Does it make sense to just do
Yeah,
like
I mean,
November 11th?
ground's probably going to start freezing after that, although who knows? So maybe, yeah, I mean, November feels
November
realistic to me.
11th?
But if Mr. Dyken, you have any input on, happy to hear.
No, that sounds good to me. I think that there's an outside chance that I will have finished by November, but I don't want to make any promises.
All right. I love to hear it. Okay, so is November 11th is our meeting?
Yeah.
And do we want Mike to attend that meeting to give an update, or
Yeah,
or if it's finished sooner, then sooner would
Yeah,
be.
if it's finished sooner, definitely let us know. I mean, we'll continue to have you update Jackie as, monthly as things are happening. In the heat of the summer, I hope that you work at a capacity that doesn't harm you in any way.
hydrate.
It's usually early mornings, so the sun isn't at its zenith at that point. So
Fair enough.
And you've been here, so you've heard that the goal basically is to obtain this request for return to compliance letter. That's like what we're working towards. So
that's right.
The other folks were here for. So once it's removed, that's the whole point of this.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion then to amend the deadline?
I can make a motion that we extend the deadline for the restoration work under Enforcement Order 2024-02 at 92 Parsonage Lane until our November 11th, 2026 meeting.
I second that motion.
And how do we vote? Jen DeCarlo, aye.
Andrew Mulholland, aye.
Maureen Bresnahan, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.
All right, we'll hear from you November or sooner. Good luck. Take it easy.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so moving on, a couple more items. We have an informal discussion regarding 96 North Street. That's map 12, lot 39. There's a conceptual plan, and my understanding is that Mr. Barnard is here, or Bernard?
Yep.
Okay, all right. If you want to tell us, and maybe if you want to put are you able to share your screen with your plan?
Okay, let me start just with a quick narrative. For the record, my name is Greg Bernard, representing the owners of 96 North Street. They built the house. The original order was issued in 96. They refiled in 1999, and they were issued a certificate of compliance in 2002. I will share my screen to show you what it looks like right now. Okay, so this is the plan I prepared for tonight's meeting. North Street's at the bottom of the page.
I can't see the plan.
Yeah, we're not seeing anything, sir.
You're not seeing it. Let me go back. Share.
Looks like it's coming up now.
Okay. You guys can all see it now?
Yep.
Okay. So North Street's at the bottom of the page, got an existing driveway to a garage. Here's the existing dwelling. Septic system. As part of the new filing in 1999, the owners granted a conservation restriction on a very large piece of the property. The total properties are almost 3 acres, and they granted a conservation restriction for 2.5 of the acres, leaving only a half an acre as called an unrestricted area. The unrestricted area, there's a dashed line here that designates the unrestricted area. Goes over behind the garage and comes back out to North Street. There is a wetland delineated in the rear of the property. There's a floodplain designated by the blue line. And there is a retaining wall within the unrestricted area that also kind of acts as a do not disturb, even though there are some markers on the property. This entire area in the unrestricted area is grass. It's already disturbed. It's grass. There's a septic system in here. Maybe I can pull up an aerial view. Does that aerial view come through to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so again, here's the existing house. Garage is to the right. You can just barely make out the retaining wall that's in the back here. And again, this is all grass area. This is the area where the septic system is. What the owners are proposing is in the existing garage, on the second floor of the existing garage, they'd like to put an accessory dwelling unit. They're not proposing to increase any of the footprint of the existing building. They just want to refinish the second floor so their adult child that's living in the house can have some independent living. However, if that was to go forward, the septic system is not large enough to handle the additional bedroom. There's 4 bedrooms in the house. This would be a 5th bedroom. So what they would have to do is add another trench that I show here in green. This has been discussed with the Board of Health, John, the agent, because this, I want to make sure it met his, the Board of Health regulations before I talked to the commission. So this dash red line here is the 50-foot buffer zone. Title V septic regulations require at least a 50-foot setback from the BVW. So this red line's 50. The 100 foot's all the way out to the street. I find it very interesting that that between the owners and the commission, they decided to call this unrestricted area. To me, unrestricted means unrestricted, but the commission has their own set of regulations. when it comes to this kind of a project. And we believe that we meet the waiver qualifications in this particular instance. But after speaking with Jackie about this briefly about a month and a half ago, after I spoke to the Board of Health, we thought maybe instead of just coming in with guns blazing with a notice of intent, let's have an informal discussion with the commission. And it's also before the client spends a substantial amount of money to increase their septic system, to make sure that we're all on the same page, that we'd like to go forward with a notice of intent, if not at the next month's meeting, then the following month's meeting, in order to address this. Of course, I'll have to prove in writing that we meet the waiver qualifications. The information, one of the qualifications for the waiver is that the house was built before May something, the year 2000. The house was built in 2000. The building inspector's office does not have a record of the exact date in 2000 when it was built, but that's one of the first on your checklist of being able to qualify for the waiver. Also in that section of the waiver, that we're not doing an additional 5% of 400 square feet. We're talking about a single trench being installed. It's 2 feet wide by 45 feet wide in the existing lawn. No trees to come down, no grade changes to be made. The system was put in with the current code regulations, so there's no reason for any kind of grade changes. There is an existing septic tank located in the front yard. If this goes through with an acceptance of an accessory dwelling unit, this septic tank will have to be removed and replaced with a slightly larger. It's a 1,500 gallon tank, which is usually about 6 by 10 rectangle. So the new 2000 would be roughly 7 by 13. It'd be in the same place. Also part of the requirements as far as an accessory dwelling unit approval, which would be from either ZBA or the building department, the existing system would have to be inspected. And that requires exposing the covers. So, I mean, that work's going to get done, and exposing what's called this distribution box. When that happens, when the inspection company comes in to perform their inspection, I would like to dig also about an 8-foot hole in this area just to confirm the kind of material that's there and how much fill is there. So if and when I am able to present a revised septic plan to the Board of Health, I've got a firm grip of how much material is there. It's supposed to be all sand. This whole area is sand, according to the previous soil test. So I don't expect there to be any problems here.
I think that our waiver provision needs to be edited and modified, because section sub I of the bylaws allow us to vote to waive Topsfield specific requirements. We can't waive state or federal requirements, but there are 4 criteria that need to be addressed, and the 4 elements are all and. So all 4 elements have to be determined in the affirmative. And sub D says that the waiver is necessary to accommodate an overriding public interest, which isn't applicable here, or that the order so restricts the use of the property as to constitute an unconstitutional taking without compensation. I don't think, and whether something is a taking under the Constitution is, well settled jurisprudence. And I don't think sub D can be satisfied here. And I think that the Topsfield bylaws should be rewritten to remove that provision. I think that the text that was put into the bylaws back in 2014 was cloned from the state waiver provisions or variance provisions. But my read of it, we can't satisfy sub D. That the order not permitting the work to add an apartment over the garage is not likely to rise to the high standard of an unconstitutional taking.
Well, I'd have to agree with you that I don't believe it would be an unconstitutional taking. However, I do believe it would accommodate an overriding public interest, according to the governor and the recently passed ADU law, that the governor in the state of Massachusetts believes this is in the public interest.
This particular project?
Accessory dwelling unit projects in general.
Okay. All right, well, you can brief that point. But I think it's going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah, I guess I want to go back to the A through C waiver criteria.
Sorry,
First.
could I just back up? I just want to
Oh, yeah, go
quickly
ahead.
summarize, what the work actually it's not being proposed, not saying that, just what we're currently discussing. So the changes to the existing structure would be of negligible impact to us. So everything on the right side is of negligible impact. Am I correct in that understanding?
That is correct. The actual construction work will be on the inside on the second floor.
Okay.
There is going to have to be a sewer line installed, whether it goes from the garage roughly in this area over to the existing house, or if it follows down the walkway through, again, existing grass and into the tank.
Okay.
So there's that portion. I mean, it's a trench, the pipe gets put in, everything gets put back in place.
Understood. Yep. The tank, the footprint underground of the tank would be larger, is
Correct.
another change.
Correct.
A fourth or a fourth set of piping would be added to an
Correct.
area that is existing lawn. And then there's you meant digging an 8-foot hole to test some of the soils before this work is being done.
Correct. When
Right.
there's
Did I
already a
misunderstand that?
machine out there disturbing some areas in order to do the inspection, which is required.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to summarize everything and make sure that I was understanding exactly what we were discussing there. And then the other just quick point I want to bring up, we don't have to discuss it right now. I do also find the term unrestricted area to be interesting. Is that language coming out of the conservation restriction that was placed on the property, or is
I'm
that?
going to show you exactly where that came from.
Okay.
I think it is unrestricted in relation to the conservation restriction. But not.
This is the
reading.
This is the as-built plan presented to the Conservation Commission for their certificate of compliance. So the rear area is called the restricted area, and the inside area is called the unrestricted area. That's the only place I have it. It is mentioned in a I don't know if it's the amended order of conditions or one of the other. There was a conservation, yeah. So this restriction was done in 1999.
Yeah. And I might be totally off base in this, but by unrestricted, is that just not under the purview of the restriction, or is it because we're restricting this, we would like this to be unrestricted under the bylaws? And I might be totally not knowing how
It's not subject to the conservation restriction.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we can declare an area not subject to the bylaws other than putting it in our bylaw. But
okay. I just
and I'm not trying to interpret that way. I just want to bring it out there that this is the way it was presented to the Conservation Commission.
It's not a great plan because it's a little misleading. I saw that immediately,
Yeah.
saying it's unrestricted area is totally misleading. It should just be that the hatched area is subject to the conservation restriction and the other area is not subject to
Yeah,
the
not restricted
conservation.
area.
Um, so
Yeah, it's a little misleading, but yeah.
Yeah.
Could have
Okay, I
used
just
better
wanted to,
words.
those are my couple of points that I hoped were.
Yeah, I'm not saying you can do
Quick,
anything you want to do in an unrestricted area, but
Yeah,
that's
no,
how it's been.
absolutely.
It's not an unrestricted area. Let's be real. Okay. So it's not an unrestricted area. Let's be real. All right. So meaning that it's sorry to be blunt, but it's definitely not unrestricted area. It's just that the restricted area has to be subject to the conservation restriction and probably has some tax benefits associated with it, I'm assuming, and the rest of it is a house lot, basically. This is a challenge. I'm going to be upfront here because, let's just say I think it's a challenge because it can be couched as sort of like this de minimis. It's only happening within the footprint. It's just kind of a conversion, almost like a condo conversion or anything like that. Obviously, the septic system is what's triggering, is triggering something here clearly, but you could trigger a septic system upgrade at any point if your septic system fails. I think the issue here is that the waiver provision is intended, and Maureen touched on this, is intended so that someone is not so unreasonably restricted that they can't develop their lot. And these folks or their predecessors have already had their bite at the apple. The lot was developed, right? It was developed in a time frame where they were able to build a house, and so they had that opportunity and were able to do that, notwithstanding the whatever resource areas are affected. And now it looks like they're trying to kind of extend beyond that and have this sort of second bite. And look, everybody's getting a second bite under the governor's regs, right? And the ADU becoming legalized. But the problem is that we have a resource area. So I don't think it's as clean cut because I think they got their bite to create the house. And it's very specific about what you can, build here. It's sort of like these ancillary improvements, like a driveway, for instance, right? And the fact that they even have a garage here, I think kind of goes beyond maybe what would normally have been considered. I'm trying to see, I don't think I see a garage on here. Is it a detached garage?
It's attached garage, and currently I have the as-built plan up here with the garage on it.
Okay, it's attached, so there's like a corridor.
Well, there's a roof. There's a walkway underneath a roof. But
yeah, so even that's kind of a interesting, this case law on that, on whether like a corridor can be, considered an attached garage or not, pergola. So I mean, this just is like so new for us. For me, I would not feel comfortable, I think, approving this without, town council maybe glossing over this, because this is, it goes beyond what that original waiver provision contemplates. Even if it is within the walls of the building, it sounds like they're only permitted to do this sort of single family house thing. But then
What impact do we think this is having on the resource area, though? You're
Well, I
going to
mean, we
disturb
do
the
have the
I don't
ground.
know if you're asking
additional-
me or the commission.
We do have the additional septic that is leaching out into the ground near the resource area. I think that's the main.
But also, let's
thing.
say you don't necessarily have extra, you have extra capacity, right? You're not even, when they talked about the plans, they're not even talking about increasing the number of people living in the dwelling. They're just relocating one of the humans, right? Like,
yeah, but that's not really relevant because, I mean, I understand your concern, but the reality is that there are no restrictions on occupancy with these ADUs. So it doesn't matter that a family member is going to go reside in the ADU for now, house gets sold, you could completely rent it out. As based on my understanding, you could rent out the ADU to whoever you want. It basically becomes, dual, a 2-unit property, which is great. It serves housing. It's an awesome thing that we're doing. That's my personal opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of the commission in that respect, but I'm just not sure our waiver, like the waiver gets you there, because the waiver already got you to the particular position that you're in now. It would be like, how does the waiver get you to this next thing under that, the single family piece of it?
Well, I don't understand what you mean when you say the waivers already got us to this position.
Because this lot, right, it was created at a time where it would only be developed for the purpose of putting the single family home, because it was a lot in existence. And then it got developed in 2000. That's the provision, I guess, in our notes. I don't know if that was, I know you don't have a formal application, but sorry, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I can explain more about that if that's helpful. I interpreted in our, we have our A, B, and C considerations in associating with granting a waiver. Then we have our waiver provision I, which Maureen just covered. The A through C, I would interpret this as meeting, or not meeting, but I would interpret it as being applicable to Part B, which says for lots in existence but not developed as of May 2nd, 2000. Just because I assume that if this was applied for before May 2nd, 2000, I am sure the lot was already created. But the fact that it was finished being built in the year 2000 and we don't have a date for that, I assume it wasn't finished in the winter. So it seems most likely that it was done after May 2nd, 2000, unless we can prove otherwise, in my opinion. So for that, we have 3 tiers of our A, B, and C for considerations in association with granting of a waiver. This is the one that, in my opinion, falls in that middle one, B, where we have this specific statement that says for projects proposing substantial removal of the primary structure, activities shall be allowed only as necessary to develop the lot with a house, septic system, and driveway, and activities shall be outside of buffer zone as much as possible. So I guess if we're not proposing substantial removal of the primary structure, maybe we could say it doesn't apply because of that, or it doesn't meet that criteria. We could say that that we're just performing activities as necessary to develop the lot with a house, septic system, and driveway, because it is, I mean, it's the same house, but it's just expanding the septic system. So you could maybe argue that.
I don't read B that way though, Jackie. Do you read B as being like it's I look at it as 2 options. One is if there's nothing on the lot, and the other one is, or I know it says and, but it's like almost like this provision is applicable to those scenarios where either there's nothing on the lot, but the lot was in existence at this point, so it's grandfathered, or there is like some old dilapidated house and we're going to take it down and we're going to reconstruct something.
So you're looking at section 2 sub B.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So this is a lot in existence but not developed as of May 2nd.
My supposition, based on the very limited information that we have, is that was how they ended up developing this lot to begin with. Under that provision.
Jen, I just wanted to note quickly that there's a person in the call that has had their hand raised for a little while.
Oh yeah, sorry, I did not see that. I don't see that on my.
I think Ian Hatfield. I just at the chair's discretion want to make sure that you were aware of that.
Sure. Is this their project?
These are the owners.
Okay. Yeah. If they want, yeah. If you want to unmute yourself and if you can shed light or participate.
Unmute. Hi. So I'm Tony Hatfield. I'm the mother, and I guess I don't understand what all this waiver is. Like, is this a zoning waiver? Is it as a conservation waiver? Because this is like the I'm hearing about these and I don't really understand. How
It's a
can
waiver
I?
of the Topsfield Conservation Commission bylaws, because the bylaws say, depending upon when the lot was formed, there should be no activities in the buffer zone setback areas. So to undertake activities such as extending the septic, then we need to consider whether our waiver provision applies to your situation. And the thing that's really a high hurdle and a great challenge for our ability to grant a waiver here is that section sub D, that compelling public interest or a takings under the Constitution. It's a high standard.
But where I'm confused about the waiver is, we were all talking about restricted versus unrestricted, right? But the whole way that we understood the unrestricted was that it was not under the conservation restrictions that were on the 2.5 acres. The 4/10 did not have those conservation restrictions. And interestingly, someone said, well, you probably have a lower tax bill for the 2.5, which is true. If you look at that tax bill for the 2.5, you'll say, oh, you're hardly being charged anything. But the interesting thing is the 4/10 acre, that's actually valued at a much higher value. So it's really like making up the difference for the 3 acres. But again, that unrestricted, the way it was explained to us, was that did not have conservation restrictions. So I understand public health saying, okay, if you're going to extend the septic, that we have to make sure that, you're not getting into the water or whatever. Like, I get that. But I don't understand why we're being challenged by the conservation.
So are you the ones that granted the conservation restriction to the town?
No, that was done way back in 99 by the prior owners.
So typically people will grant a restriction to, they'll say, hey, I'm going to give this, basically to benefit the town or some other purpose. It could be, there's different types of restrictions. But it's restricted from being built upon, improved in a permanent way. That's typically how it is, right? And so you're taking an oversized lot, you're carving out a section and saying, I'm not gonna, whatever the restriction says, and we'd have to look to the express terms of that restriction to see what was agreed to by your predecessors. But basically, okay, we're not going to use the back lot, we're not going to, that's for the benefit of the town, we're going to keep it a buffer zone, basically, between properties. But we are going to carve out, just like is on your plan, sort of the building envelope, if you will, right? And so your house, your current house and improvements are within that building envelope. Now, we don't have the benefit of looking at that restriction. I don't know if Jackie's had an opportunity, but I can tell you, based on my own experience with this, is that what likely this means is, and again, we'd have to look to the express terms of it, is that area is the building envelope. You can use it. You can use it for, residential purposes to maintain your home. And that's the border before the conservation restriction area. But I've never seen, and I, of course, can be educated on this, I've never seen a conservation restriction where it's like almost like a bargain. Part of the bargain is that part of the land is completely restricted and our house lot is not subject to anything. That would be really shocking to me. And again, we'd have to look at the conservation restriction itself to see what it says. But I would not believe that it would exempt your building envelope, your lot, your house lot part of the property from our restrictions. And what you're proposing to do is within a setback area. So that means that our regulations govern what can happen in that setback area. And typically you can't do anything in a setback area unless it falls within one of these waiver provisions because it's considered a resource area. So I don't
Right,
know.
so the conservation restriction is a completely different thing than the wetland bylaw. And so sometimes those can overlap. Like, for instance, in this situation, the conservation restriction is also within wetlands jurisdiction. of the like subject to the Conservation Commission, but for a different reason. So you can have a conservation restriction that's not in a wetland at all and has nothing to do with the wetland bylaw. But you can also have land that is not under a conservation restriction, but is still subject to the wetland bylaw and requires conservation permitting to do any sort of work on the exterior of the home, like changing the property. And that bylaw applies to anyone in town, regardless of whether or not there's a conservation restriction. So I do think sometimes people get those two things confused, but they're entirely different. They're an entirely different process. And the wetland bylaw applies to any property, whether public or private, that has a wetland, a jurisdictional wetland or buffer zone.
Yeah. So just to summarize, the term unrestricted it's unrestricted by the conservation restricted. It is still under all of the purviews of the wetlands bylaw. The conservation restriction didn't change any of the wetlands bylaw that the entire property is under. And I mean, we'd have to look at the exact terms of the restriction to see if, like Jen said, there was text in there that was some sort of bargain. But like Jen said, we've never seen something like that. And I don't think Jackie has either.
No, I don't think it would be possible.
We have a copy of what the prior owners had signed. Phyllis Small, I think was her name. So we have a copy of that. And our understanding is that all talked about you couldn't do things like on the conservation restricted 2.5 acres, you can't do a pool, you can't do a tennis court, you can't develop it. But it was always our understanding that, again, the unrestricted, right, meant that we were able to do things in that area, and especially because we're not changing the footprint here, we are just building up. And even like in prior conversations, of course, it's like, oh yeah, you can build up, you can't build out, because then you're going to start getting into the conservation restricted area. But that's where it's not clear to me. So then, since everyone seems to be a little like, we're not sure, what kind of research has to be done to understand what the real ramifications are or restrictions on us? How can we confirm what I think is that we're okay to build up in the quote unquote unrestricted? We just can't be doing that building in the 2.5 acres.
I think it goes beyond that question, because keep in mind, ADUs can be built elsewhere on your lot, not just within a garage. So in your case, you're coming to us asking for an ADU to be built in the garage, but somebody else that comes to us could be trying to put an ADU elsewhere on the lot, and not even have a conservation restriction or anything like that. Being part of it. So, I mean, that's why I was saying, I think this is something we probably need to talk to town council, because, you can hire a lawyer, you can have them do an opinion on this and give us, all the information, and we can weigh it, but it's what they call a case of first impression for us. I mean, this is a relatively new statute that's gone into effect in Massachusetts, and our purview is really within our resource areas, and your property, like I said earlier, has already been benefited from the way it sounds like, based on the limited information that we have, that is already potentially benefit from the waiver provisions by just being able to have a home built on it. And so now you're looking to kind of expand on that, even though it's within the footprint. And I recognize that makes this a unique question. But again, it's even just a case of first impression because it involves an ADU.
May I just ask, like, by calling it an ADU, if you're adding another room that has like
that's a whole other legal question, right?
And I'm not sure the ADU is what's in question here. It's the work of expansion of the septic system.
Yeah.
Right. I think
the change
so.
to the building is of de minimis impact to us. It has to do with the septic system and the changes underground.
Okay, so can you just tell me what statute you're referencing that's relatively recent?
You can well, it's I'm sorry, I don't have this. I'm sure your representative has it because he's proposing this ADU for you, but the governor recently passed this Affordability Housing Act, I think it is. I'm sorry if I'm not calling it correct, but you could easily Google it. And so what it did was it legalized ADUs in the Commonwealth, and then I'm sure our local zoning bylaws or our local code recognizes the ADUs. I think it's by right, so it may be in our local zoning bylaw, but you don't need relief for it, typically from a zoning perspective. But again,
Right.
we're here on conservation, right?
Yeah,
We're not the zoning board.
Right.
Yeah, we're not looking into that part of it. It's
Exactly.
that the changes to the property are within the buffer zone, which is something that the Conservation Commission has jurisdiction over.
Okay,
So-
and is that why you're saying section 2 sub D? Where's that coming from?
That's coming from our regulations.
So
Okay,
the
so-
wetland regulations, Topsfield wetland regulations.
And so I would be able to find those on the Topsfield website?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And that section of the regulations has to do with our ability to
Restrict activities.
waive our restricted activities.
And you talked about, I think, four waivers, A, B, C, and D? Did I hear that right?
They're considerations that have to be that we have to consider.
So there
sorry.
are considerations A through C. That's in subsection 2, A through C. And then later there's subsection I, which has A through D, which are the 4 waiver criteria rather than the considerations in association with granting a waiver. And we've discussed amongst the commission that we do think this section is a little bit confusing, and we hope to be able to improve upon it. But at this point, we don't have a timeline for when those changes would take place or what the changes would be. We've just started to work on it. But we do intend to make it a little bit more clear. But right now we have to work with what we have, and that's.
Yeah, and those changes that we're proposing wouldn't necessarily allow or disallow something that isn't already allowed or disallowed. It's just an administrative process that we would make things easier for us and for the applicants. And correct me if I'm wrong on that. Okay.
Well, I mean, we could choose to change the way that they operate. The Conservation Commission would have to vote to change the regulations regardless, as long as they stayed within the realm of the wetland bylaw, which is less specific about these requirements. If we wanted to change the bylaw, we'd have to have a town meeting vote. So to change things substantially, we would need.
Yep.
But to change the regulations, which are the more specific rules under the bylaw, including the waiver provision, we just need, I think, public notice and a vote of the Conservation Commission, but that's going to be a long process.
And
just so
we
you're
don't,
aware that it's possible that they may change, and maybe that won't change things for you. Maybe it will change things in a beneficial way or detrimental way for your project, but this is what we're working with right now, and we acknowledge that it is confusing, and I'm happy to talk to you if you have questions reading through it, because it took us a lot of discussion at times to
Special
interpret
meetings.
them.
So if I to be able to educate myself, to go on the Topsfield website, I would be looking for Topsfield wetlands regulations and then conservation regulations. Are they in separate areas?
They would all be on the conservation page of the town website under,
Okay.
I think it's under regulations and policies. And there you would
Okay.
find the let me see. No, I'm on the wrong website. Let me see. Documents. Oh, the town website just changed, so my link
it
is
just
not.
changed.
Yeah.
There is like on the home page, there is a button for bylaws.
Tony,
Okay.
Tony, I
That
can,
that would
I
just
can
have
send it to
bylaw,
you,
maybe
Tony.
not the regulations.
Okay, and that's it. I mean, I just want to, because I think we're all kind of like scratching our heads a little bit, because I have a different idea of what was presented to me for the property and what we could do on it. And you all say the regulations may be restricting that. So I just want to make sure that I'm reading the regulations and I can figure out. So, and I'm glad we're having this informal. I'm glad I'm not digging up my yard only to find out that maybe I might not be able to do this. But what's interesting is, what if my septic were to fail at any point? I mean, I have to be able to replace my septic, right?
That's not an activity. That's not a new activity. So maintenance and repairs are permitted. But
Yeah, expressly permitted.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
and you may need a notice of intent to replace the septic system.
and
Especially if
we
you're
wouldn't have
changing
to
the
waive
location and
anything to
whatnot.
grant that.
a failed septic system may rise to the level of a takings under the Constitution, because if you don't have a septic, then you don't have a home.
Right. I think my
Right.
son had a question.
I had a thought. Yeah. Sorry, got distracted by the septic part. This is okay. Yeah. This is, by the way, Ian Hatfield. I'm the adult child. The wetlands we're talking about is that boundary that Greg was showing of the 50 feet and the 100 feet and what falls in between that. But the 100 feet goes all the way to the street, which means the entire property, including the non-restricted area, is covered. So that's, yeah. Right?
That's correct, yes. There's a small sliver around your driveway that's not within the 100-foot, but
Okay.
the vast majority of the property is within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Right.
And
And
that's
it's also,
that.
it's possible, not likely that it would change by much, but it is possible that the wetland boundary could change over time. This, depending how recent the wetland delineation was done, like many years later, the wetland boundary could have shifted naturally, and then the 100-foot buffer zone could move in or out. So it's more based on the conditions rather than the conservation restriction, which was like a agreed upon boundary. But
Can I just, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
So going to the public good thing here for a second. And please, by all means, tell me, no, it doesn't qualify as a public good. But the reason that my family were considering this project of building above the garage is that I live with a chronic medical condition that I basically don't breathe when I sleep. And I'm 35 years old. I would love to be able to live on my own, but quite frankly, it's not safe for me to do so. So what this opportunity would present is the opportunity for me to live on the property, have my own space outside of the same bedroom I've been in since 2001, and be able to be safe with my family and have some safety nets in place, while also starting to build some habits of independence and potential capacity to eventually maybe live on my own. But right now, it's quite frankly a situation of, if I go and live in an apartment, I don't know if I have the safety and habits in place right now where I will survive. So this is like something that allows me to, and I may end up living in this ADU for the rest of my life, but it's better than my childhood bedroom. So I don't know if that rises to the level of a public good when you consider medical complications and conditions that are chronic and not going anywhere in play, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, we totally appreciate that. I mean, I think that that's part of one of the goals of ADUs, right? Is to keep family, well, usually like people that are aging in place. But it sounds like, and not to be, cold hearted, but it may not be quite. It's personal to you. It may not be a public matter. Like typically we deal with like utilities, that kind of stuff. But it's certainly, it certainly could be. I'm not saying it isn't within sort of the stated goals of or the stated purposes of the ADU statute. But it's we recognize, you know, obviously people want to build these so that extended family can continue living there, and that's recognized amongst other goals, you know, other housing goals. So so we appreciate you sharing that with us, and we understand the necessity that this serves to you. We really do appreciate that. It's just trying to figure out what our role is in all of this, because it's more widespread than your individual lot. You know, how do we deal with more recently developed properties and trying to expand to fit the statute. So we're trying to figure that out.
Okay, well, I'm very grateful to Greg for all he's done. And I just need to educate myself, and then I can work with the commission if I think I've figured something out that might change. But I'm very grateful to have this preliminary meeting rather than digging up my whole lawn and finding out it was all for naught, right? So I think just some more research on our part, and then speaking with the commission, I guess, again.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
All right.
and I'll just note that any opinions the commission shares, like today or in the future, it's not part of a public hearing on this matter, and no decisions are being made. So it doesn't mean that their opinion won't be different when the formal plan is presented to them with all the application materials.
Okay.
But we hope that this offers you some guidance that helps you make the decision.
Okay.
Also, Greg, didn't mean to cut off if you had any other parts of your presentation you were trying to bring to the commission's attention.
No, I think you've presented it very well.
Okay. All right. Well,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you. Best of luck.
All right.
Okay, so we are going to move on. We just have very little left. So if it's okay, we could, unless somebody needs to take a break, we can just shoulder on. Is that okay? Soldier on.
That's good.
Okay. All right. All right. So next is Enforcement Order 2026-01. This is 110 Perkins Row, map 51, lot 10, unauthorized activities in wetlands resource area. All right, Jackie, what's going down?
So I issued the enforcement order very quickly after our meeting. The next day, I believe, was when I issued the enforcement order. That was our April, let's see, April 8th meeting. So that would have been on April 9th. And I set a deadline for within 1 week of the date of issuance for the erosion controls to be put in, and then 2 weeks from then for like the seeding of the area that had disturbed soil. I followed up with the homeowner after the 2 weeks had passed, and he let me know that he was not aware that the deadline had passed, and that he would do it right away. I think he said he would try to do it the next day, and I told him to follow up with me when it was done. I never heard back from him after that. And at this point, I don't know if is anyone present to speak to this matter at the meeting. I know we had asked him to attend this meeting as well.
I see one other person to call, ABOSC, but other than that, I don't see anyone else.
Okay, so it doesn't appear that anybody's raising their hand or trying to participate. So it looks like Mr. Moody has not appeared despite being directed to. So it looks like, it sounds like from your notes, Jackie, like we need to provide some direction, but try not to conflict with other departments.
Yeah, so I'd hoped to ask him what he had heard from building department. Unfortunately, the building inspector was out today, and then I was away last week, so I haven't had a chance to check in with him about this. I know I think he was planning to address the construction equipment specifically, like the storage of construction equipment on the site. But I'm not sure where that went, if he issued any sort of order yet. Yeah, I mean, when I spoke to Chris Moody, he was very apologetic about missing the deadline and said that I think he didn't remember the deadline and was very willing to do it, but then I haven't heard back, so I'm not sure what the status is. I didn't have a chance to drive by this week, but I drove by a few times before my time off, and it looked like the granite blocks had moved around in configuration. But
So what's our
I
action
didn't
item
see
here? Is
They were
this an
still in the-
update or is there something to be done?
Well, he did disturb the earth, right?
Yeah,
So
and the space has not been stabilized yet, even though the deadline to stabilize the space has passed. So he
In
is
April.
out of
Yeah.
in April.
he's out of compliance with
He
the
is well out
enforcement
of
order.
compliance.
I mean, it's possible he's done it in between when I last saw it, but if so, he should have contacted me. And he was supposed to attend this meeting according to the enforcement order to give us an update and a plan on what he was planning to do.
and he himself indicated that he was a contractor. I think that was what he said at the last thing. So it seems to me like now it has to be elevated to, restore the site, put the erosion controls. This is your deadline to submit a restoration plan, remove equipment. I don't see why. I guess I understand there might be yeah, look, if an order conflicts with building, he can come back here, right, and say, hey, the building department told me A, B, and C, and then we can either change course or, so I don't see really any issue with amending the enforcement order and giving him a hard deadline.
Right. Yeah, I was just hoping to get more of an understanding on what happened, if anything, with
Yes.
building department, but
Yeah.
if not, I mean, we are allowed to make our own decision. That doesn't have to relate to building department, and then whichever is more restrictive of an ask would need to get done.
Yeah. What's this is I mean, I think just tell him he's got to come back for June 10th, right? With the restoration plan.
I mean, the space
stabilize
needs
the
to get
site.
stabilized like
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
Friday. Like he is well out of compliance here.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Stabilized site, but then he needs to appear with a
Over a
restoration.
month since the deadline's in April.
yeah.
Yeah.
He was supposed to seed, right? So, and remove the
Someone's joining the call right now.
Oh, okay.
Adam Scott _ axial. So they're still connecting. I don't know.
This is our last matter, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Did somebody join the meeting in connection with the enforcement order at 110 Perkins Row? Okay. All right. So again, it doesn't look like anybody's raising their hand. So, or participating on behalf of this enforcement order. So it sounds like, Jackie, what would be an appropriate time? I mean, I know we're way past, but given you're going to issue something, from the data issuance to stabilize the site, what would be an appropriate time frame?
I think, I mean, as soon as possible, but I think just as practically, I mean, the earliest I can issue it is tomorrow, and then I'm not in the office Friday through Monday. So maybe following up with me by Tuesday would be the soonest that I could enforce. I mean, we can ask for it to be done sooner if you'd like.
Well, does he need to, obviously he needs to follow up with you regarding a restoration, but do you think he needs to follow up with you to stabilize the site as well to get instruction, or
Yeah, I think the first step is to stabilize the site. That's the most urgent matter, and then restoring any impacts would be the next action, other than if he was going to do an after the fact notice of intent. But it seems like he hasn't presented a plan to us for that.
So just so let me just clarify. Does he need to connect with you on stabilizing the site, or is that something that you can direct him what he needs to do in the amended order?
I can direct him what to do in the amended order. I mean, we did in the previous order just direct him to install
Stabilize the
erosion
site
controls
and
that
seed the
limited
area.
work, seed the area. So we can ask for that again. I mean, we could ask that he contact us to set up a site visit. That might be useful to get a sense of what's going on there, and have maybe some commissioners come out there and take a look and maybe discuss it with him in case that helps.
So the original enforcement order that was dated April 9th gave him 1 week, so till April 16th, to stabilize the site with erosion control, and then 2 weeks to seed the area disturbed. So do we use the same time frame? You know, if you issue an updated or amended enforcement order tomorrow, 1 week to stabilize the area, 2 weeks to seed the area disturbed, kind of the same treatment.
I mean, I think that's being gracious. It's been over a month since we initially.
Yeah.
Personally, I'd rather see a 1 week deadline for all of those
Both?
items.
Okay.
And then if he makes significant headway and says, I can, get this done over the next 2 days, and he needs 9 days instead of 7, then.
Yep. Okay. So we update the
So be
enforcement
it,
order and give
but
him 1 week to
I'm okay.
accomplish those 2 tasks.
Just to clarify,
We have to
though,
update it.
what's that?
Is
Do we
that
have
a
to
silly
update it with the
question?
new deadline?
Yeah. Can't we just send it out with the original deadline?
I mean,
Then he's out of compliance.
then he's out of compliance. I mean, he is already out of
Well, yeah.
compliance.
I mean, I would rather do. I don't understand why we amend it if people don't come and ask for a new deadline. Why are we going to push out
Right,
someone's deadline?
Well, yeah,
I would just resend it back out with the same deadline.
or something that says you are not in compliance with the enforcement order as issued. You're facing fines. You're directed to.
Yeah. So maybe a
comply with
violation letter.
Yeah, you're directed
Another one.
out.
Another violation letter, and I mean, if we don't even hear after 7 days, then I'd like to start levying.
Okay.
Personally,
I just don't know
Put some
why we would
teeth in
amend it, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't
Yeah.
want to push deadlines for people.
Yeah.
No.
I'm with you. I mean, honestly, if I did move the deadline, I would have deadline and then fine start the next day. That's the.
Yeah.
Well, I think so. I kind of wanted to go back there. So looking at your notes, Jackie, it said deadline passed. Those items not been completed. I reached Chris by phone, and he said he was not aware of the deadline. So this was after after he appeared before us, and the original enforcement order went out, right?
Right. So he had heard from us at the meeting of when the deadlines would be, and the enforcement order had been sent out to him. I think by email and regular mail. And then when I followed up after the deadlines, he let me know that he had not been aware of them and had not done the work.
And it wasn't that we ratified the enforcement order and resent it to him, and he now I think the issue is that we discussed the time frame and the deadlines with him during the meeting, and then the deadlines passed, and that you had a conversation with him after the meeting, and he expressed a lack of awareness of the deadlines. And I will, just say that kind of sounds consistent with the way that the meeting went. I think it was a little bit of a, just a challenging issue, right? So I think this kind of piggybacks on what Ben's saying. I think and I think we're all in unison on this.
Yeah.
Sending the violation letter that says that, it just kind of gives it back that little history. You're non-compliant with the enforcement order. We set these deadlines at the hearing on such and such a date. You are directed to bring the site into compliance immediately and to contact this office,
And if these are not met within 7 days of receipt of this, fines will begin to be levied. I'm so okay putting teeth in these.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm sure Ben is thinking in his head, well, in a way, we're kind of amending the deadline, but we are, because the deadline doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's like,
No, I don't know what's right. That's why I asked. You guys
I
have
think
done
you're
this a lot
100% right.
longer.
Like, why should we volunteer to amend the time?
An accommodation for somebody who's not engaging.
And they're not,
Yeah.
they're
Right.
not making the request,
Yeah.
It's a little different than maybe the previous, the rock thing. Which
Yeah.
is,
But that guy
different
appeared at
information.
every meeting and explained everything. And
Yeah.
now, as
Yeah, I guess I understand the violation letter.
I said,
But oh, sorry.
no, continue.
The thing that we may need a deadline for is if we're asking him to attend another meeting or to either submit a restoration plan. I mean, maybe we can just put that in the letter, like that we need it by we expect it as soon as possible, or I don't know. I mean, if he's staying out of compliance, maybe we shouldn't set a deadline.
I think he needs
guess.
an engineer and a plan by our next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think a week after he gets the violation notice, if he has not stabilized the site / made contact with you, then that's fines. I mean, it's a short turnaround. He could appear at the next meeting and say, I have an engineer and we're halfway through a restoration plan.
Yeah.
Okay. We're having a conversation.
Or plead his case that he doesn't
Yeah.
need a restoration plan,
But we can make that judgment call once we can actually have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, best case scenario, he has done it, and like since I last viewed it, and hasn't contacted me and forgot to attend this meeting. I mean, I think that's the best case scenario. But worst case, it's gotten worse, and it's eroding and etc. So
I mean, it just poured yesterday. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Best case scenario is he received this letter and calls you the same day, and we're good. We look for a restoration plan for the next meeting, and everything's back on track. I would love that if that happens.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds like there's no action to be taken then. It's just continuing to notify him of the violation.
Do we need to vote on being really
We're not
on issuing that?
Sorry.
I'm sorry. So we don't need to take Jackie can send the violation letter without us voting on anything?
I think the only thing is just if we want to have a restoration plan, right? Because that wasn't in the original enforcement order.
right, yeah, the original one said either restoration plan or notice of intent. But I think the commission didn't even specify those specific things being required. I think it was just for him to come up with a plan of what he was going to do in terms of either restoration plan of notice of or notice of
So maybe it
intent.
was vague. I mean, let's just tie this up then with a nice little bow. I mean, you had the call with him. He didn't do anything, but according to your notes, it says he would do it right away after being reminded. He hasn't done anything since, as far as we know. Or maybe he has, so it's probably worth a drive-by before the letter goes out. And so maybe if it was vague, then we have to amend the order,
So the enforcement order, property owners shall take the following action to prevent further violations. install erosion controls at the limit of work to stabilize the site by 4/16/26, subject to conservation agent review, seed the area of disturbed soil by 4/23/26. So I don't see like a restoration plan or
Yeah, so
notice.
I think
we
there
haven't
was
set
a
a
note
deadline
at
for
the
that.
end.
Oh.
There was a note like in the addendum about coming to us at the next meeting with a
Yes. The property owner shall attend to provide update on whether you were planning to file a notice of intent, seeking permitting, or submit a restoration plan to restore the area to prior condition. Additional deadlines are to be discussed and established at this meeting. Agenda, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, I don't
So-
feel like that's too vague.
No,
Josh?
he was directed to attend this meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm definitely okay with a deadline of next meeting for the restoration plan / after the fact NOI.
Yeah.
But I would also definitely like to see a violation letter go out, ideally with some teeth on it.
Yeah.
So can you do that with just a violation letter, not an amended enforcement order? Or do you want an amended enforcement order?
Well, we need the amended enforcement order for the restoration plan deadline. So we have to amend that no matter what.
All right.
I think.
So-
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, by all means. Like,
Well, I don't know. I mean, they had it sounds like they were supposed to do it, they didn't do it. So whatever's the preference. We want to do an amended enforcement order, who cares? Let's just do an amended enforcement order. All right. Does that work, Jackie? An amended enforcement order?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can go either way, but I mean, that could be in addition to the violation notice or separate. But if we want to set a deadline for the restoration plan to be actually submitted, we would need to include language in the enforcement order more specific to that.
Okay. So then it sounds like it's an amended enforcement order. He was not, and it's like prefaced, if you include the cover letter, or whatever, it's prefaced that he did not appear at the May 20th
Yeah.
hearing as directed, right? So, all right. Anybody want to make a motion?
well, I just want to clarify what goes into this amended enforcement order. Do we need to the language that we have right now, these notes includes the requirement for erosion controls and seeding of the bare soil ASAP. What does ASAP mean? And does that, we've already stated that in the enforcement order, in the original enforcement order, do we need to say that again, or is that going to be a violation notice?
Why don't you do like 48 hours? That's really like,
Yeah.
that's
There were dates. I thought there were dates in the original enforcement
Yeah,
order,
but
not
we're past
ASAP.
it.
Well, we're long past those.
Right,
So,
right.
Was April 16, April 23rd.
but what does ASAP mean? Because that could mean next
Yeah,
week.
48 hours sounds good.
Okay,
Or-
within 48 hours of receipt of the amended
Mhm.
enforcement order. Okay,
Yes.
just gonna make some notes. So just give me 2 seconds.
So receipt of the enforcement order, I don't know how we know when he's received
Yeah.
it.
Do you do
Mailbox rule.
certified mail? Do you do certified mail or just regular mail?
I mean, I think I did both.
Certified, we would know. I mean, it would get delivered.
Yeah.
We'd get a return receipt.
Right. And I don't know if I got back the receipt from the last one, but I'll certainly also call him and email him and try to get through all the methods, but 48 hours might be quick for something that's being mailed.
So
Well, it's a
you're not in
problem.
on Monday,
Yeah.
so Tuesday of next week.
Just give them a hard deadline. Just say, if you're going to send it out tomorrow, do, by the 27th or something, or 29th is next Friday. That's way more than enough time. Plus, if he goes, oh, I can't get this done in 48 hours, he can call you, Jackie. He can be like, I can't get this done. I'm in Arizona. Not giving you that suggestion. You know what I mean? Like, people got to do the next step. We're not so punitive here that you know.
Okay, so a week from today, so by the 27th.
Sure.
Okay. I'm just continuing through to make sure I don't miss anything. Also by the 27th, contact the conservation agent for an inspection following the installation of erosion controls. No further moving construction until CC's. Okay, and then this is where it starts to. So what else do we need to include in this? We need the deadline that a restoration plan or NOI be submitted by our, what's July 8th?
Yes.
No, June
8th.
June 8th. Be submitted for
Before.
our June 8th meeting, not the same
It's-
day as it,
It's June 10th.
or June 10th. So,
Yeah.
so what's our submittal date for that? Or
May
does that?
27th. So that's gonna be too tight. May 27th.
Okay, but do
Yeah,
you,
maybe for the July meeting. I mean, I think it takes time for like an engineer to make a
Right.
plan.
Okay,
well, we
July
could say
8th.
that he needs to, at a minimum, by our next meeting, he needs to attend our next meeting,
Mhm.
and then he needs to have contracted with a engineer by our next meeting.
Okay.
That feels realistic to me. And then by our July meeting, a restoration plan.
Okay.
Engineer or in like an environmental restoration professional, maybe.
Okay, that a
Environmental firm.
environmental firm.
Yeah.
Firm be contracted. What's the right language there?
Engaged.
Engaged. Okay. And that they attend our June 10th meeting, and that a restoration plan be submitted for our July 8th meeting.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so we've got our restoration plan deadline, environmental engineer deadline. We've got our contact Jackie and get erosion controls and all the stabilization stuff in by the 27th. Am I missing anything else in the amendment? Okay, I'm ready to make a motion if that's what the chair would like.
Yes.
Okay, I will put forward a motion to amend Enforcement Order 2026-01 for 110 Perkins Row, map 51, lot 10, to order, issue the amended enforcement order to require erosion controls and seeding of bare soil by May 27th, that the to contact the conservation agent for an inspection following the installation of erosion control barrier and seeding by May 27th. That an environmental firm be engaged, and that they attend our June 10th meeting along with the applicant, and that a restoration plan or NOI be submitted for our July 8th meeting.
Sounds good.
Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
How do we vote? Jen DeCarlo, aye.
Andrew Mulholland, aye.
Maureen Bresnahan, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.
Okay, great.
So even though we just amended that, I just want to understand that a violation notice will still be going out along with this, or are we just sending the amended enforcement order?
I think I can attach my cover letter to the enforcement order and include some of those points that were made.
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah, I just want to.
Nope, I can't hear you.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. So moving on. Looks like we have to renew our signatory authorizations. So in the, I think currently it's Dodds and myself. I'm happy to continue on. I don't know about, did Dodds express that she's okay with that?
As far as I know, she is happy to keep doing it, but if she ever changes her mind, we can always vote again and change it.
Okay. I'm self-employed, so I work from home a lot. I don't mind stopping by. Unless somebody really wants to do it and they can, I have no objection. So, hold
Works for me. Happy with you two. Have been doing a great job with your signatures. So
Yep.
I can put forward a motion if everyone's ready.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to designate
Estelle, I'm
Dodge
on
Cam.
meeting.
Oh, sorry. What was
Oh, sorry. Did I yell? I'm sorry. I have someone at the door. Like,
Okay.
it's my 11-year-old. Estelle, I'm in a very important meeting.
Okay, I'll begin my motion again to
Sorry.
designate Dodge Shamroth to sign payroll and vendor warrants and Jen DiCarlo as the alternate signatory for payroll and vendor warrants on behalf of the Topsfield Conservation Commission.
I second that motion.
Jen DiCarlo, aye.
Andrew Mulholland, aye.
Maureen Bresnian, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.
Okay, and so Dodds and Jen will have to come and sign the signatory authorization. The actual form, but
Oh, yes. Yep. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I apologize.
No, it was fine.
Okay.
It's
I was like,
a very
oh.
hectic night. It's like one kid is at
It
the
is.
prom, the other kid's and my husband's traveling for work at the same time. So I'm like, I need a vacation like now. Anyway, I'm good. And I'm sweating. You guys are
I know.
probably too.
I'm like, I can see myself being like shiny on screen.
I need some powder. Anyway, okay, moving on. We're almost done. Okay. Oh, do we want to discuss? Oh, you guys are going to meet. So
Yeah.
Thursday, 2 p.m., Maureen and Jackie are going to meet to discuss the regs. Okay. That's cool.
We just decided to put a placeholder to give ourselves, kind of discipline. It's what I call an albatross task. Where you're like, oh, I got to do that. So this is a
Yeah.
incentive.
I'm very appreciative to you two working on it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I have no doubt that it's going to get done. Jackie's done this in her last place, so it's going to get done. Okay, that's fantastic. All right, meeting minutes. Did anybody have an opportunity to read them for April 8th?
I read my birthday minutes and they looked good to me.
Okay. Do we want a motion?
I can make a motion to approve the minutes from April 8th, 2026 as written.
I second the motion.
And how do we vote? Jen DiCarlo, aye.
Andrew Mulholland, aye.
Maureen Bresnian, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.
Awesome. Okay, and finally, administrators report.
I have one other just
Oh, I'm
super
sorry.
short piece of business before you get on that.
Please, yeah.
And we don't have to discuss it right now. I just want to bring up again the idea of increasing our fees for after the fact NOIs. We had briefly discussed in previous meetings, a double cost for things that are after the fact. We don't have to discuss it right now, potentially, putting it on the agenda for our next meeting. I feel like, I guess not lately, which is great, but we do a lot of after the fact wise, and I just don't think that those should be treated the same as people that are coming to us and asking permission rather than begging for forgiveness.
For some reason, I thought we had increased them at a certain point. Excuse me.
I don't think we made any changes to them. I think we did discuss it, but then it kind of got lost in some of the other bylaw discussion that we had.
right. Yeah, I assume we can add this into our
regulation overall.
Our regulations. Let me make sure.
Yeah, we don't
that
have to
we don't
discuss it
have-
right now, and we're nearing 10 p.m., so I don't want to take us any later. If it is an agenda item on our next meeting, that'd be great. I just wanted to bring it up again formally.
Okay. Yeah, I can add it to our June agenda. I mean, maybe Maureen and I will have something with the regs by then, but I do expect it's going to take longer to do all the regs.
Yeah, I'm hoping this one is just a calculator exercise if it's something that we want to go forward with. But yeah, happy to discuss it more at the next meeting, obviously.
Yeah, it looks like the fees are not within our bylaw, so it should be pretty simple. If we just change the fee schedule to have like a different.
We might have to, do we have a formal definition of what constitutes after the fact? Because that would be the only thing. Again, we don't need to discuss it right now, but that's just an item that we would need to discuss. And then sometimes after the fact NOIs are partially after the fact. So there is minutia there, but I'd like to discuss it.
Mm. Okay.
Okay, yeah, and then maybe we can also add like an ability for us to waive
Sure.
or change the fee where we see fit in case like it's a difficult definition that doesn't apply to the situation. But okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
can
I think when
work on
I
that.
think some lenience on for our ability to interpret it makes sense. Thank you. Okay.
Hey. All right,
Thank you for the
great.
intro.
Anything else in terms of new business or from any other commissioners? Okay, so then we can move on to the administrator's report.
Yes, so my main update here is that Molly from the Ipswich River Watershed Association spoke with me. We met today and she shared an update on the Mass Ready Act, which I know MACC has also recently released guidance or information on it. So this is also known as the Environmental Bond Bill, which contains sections that in the words of MACC, they paraphrased, they said it will penalize municipalities that have local wetland bylaws. Amendments 264 and 267 were added to the bill in the 11th hour and would restrict or eliminate the use of local wetland and wastewater bylaws for priority housing construction, and would penalize municipalities with wetland and water protection bylaws by making them ineligible for a new funding preference modifier. So MACC said the Conservation Commission members are encouraged to send letters to legislators and the House Ways and Means Committee. And in the email from MACC, which I shared as correspondence, it explains how to do that. I think they have some sample language. So I didn't have time to put this on the agenda as something we can take a formal position on as a commission. I think that would have to be a formal agenda item, but I'm just sharing that correspondence in case anyone wants to do with it what you will, as an individual member.
Thank you.
The other thing to report on, I had a question. Oh, sorry. If you want to ask a question about that, you can. I'll wait to move on.
Oh, no, I just want to say that I'm in agreement with MACC, and if it becomes an agenda item, then I would be willing to sign on to a letter that in opposition to those two parts of the bill.
Yeah, I don't know if we have time. I think they said like it needs quick action.
Okay.
So I might not have time to put it on the next agenda. But I'll look into the timeline and see. But if not, I mean, anyone is welcome to submit their own personal letter.
Okay, thank you.
And then my other update, someone had asked me if the commission would be willing to extend the deadline for a tree planting for an RDNI. We usually require it to be 6 months from the original tree removal date. This applicant wanted to acquire a larger tree, like a mature sized tree, and the nursery apparently didn't have it in stock. So I think at least when I reached out to him at the deadline for planting, that's what he told me. And so he's basically requesting an extension, but I didn't have time to put it on the agenda because it was yesterday.
Yeah.
So maybe on the next agenda, I can add that for discussion, but I think for now, I'll let it be on hold until the commission makes a decision about extending the deadline or not.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate them wanting a larger tree. I do think a 6 month, they had 6 months to get that larger tree, which is a little, something feels a little strange there. 5.5 months in, they went to do this, and then the nurseries weren't stocked. Like, okay. So it feels a little weird to me. So I'd like to hear if they can submit something slightly more formal. I'd like to hear that before I extended that deadline. That's just my opinion, but.
Okay. Yeah, well, maybe I can put it on the agenda for next meeting. So we can have a formal discussion about it, but just wanted to let you know I'm putting that on hold for now till we have the discussion about it. Okay, I think that's all I have.
All right.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, we have a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion that we close the hearing of the May 20th, 2026 meeting of the Conservation Commission at 10:01 p.m.
I second that motion.
How do we vote? Jen DeCarlo, aye.
Andrew Mulholland, aye.
Maureen Bresnahan, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.